Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 2021 Fall Youth Career Conference. My name is Elizabeth Mesa, and I'm a Workforce Outreach Specialist with Workforce Solutions. And I have the honor to introduce our welcome speaker for today, our very own Workforce Solutions leader, Mr. Frank Almaraz, who was appointed Chief Executive Officer of Workforce Solutions on August 2014. As CEO, Mr. Almaraz has planning, oversight, and fiduciary responsibilities of the organization that oversees workforce development services for Hidalgo, Starr, and Willacy counties in South Texas. Mr. Almaraz, I'll hand it over to you now.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2021 Fall Youth Conference. I hope everyone is staying safe and healthy. Looks like the COVID cases nationwide are plateauing and may actually be coming down. So hopefully this trend continues and brings more normalcy to us. Today's youth conference is held as part of the Careers in Texas Industries initiative. The initiative is designed to raise awareness about careers in our state's in-demand industries. In the Rio Grande Valley, the in-demand industries, those with the highest growth potential in the number of jobs, are healthcare, government, including public education, retail trade, accommodation and food service, and administrative and support services. Now, all of these industries have many occupations, and these occupations will have different educational requirements. They'll pay different wages depending on the specific occupation. So it's important to learn as much as you can about those careers that you may be interested in. The Youth Career Conference that we're having today is a career exploration event, and it's intended to help students, parents, and educators better understand the in-demand industries from industry professionals, the types of skills employers are looking for, and other workforce-related services available to parents and students. Today's youth conference is designed to support our school districts to help students align their personal and career goals with the coursework necessary to graduate and transition into college or employment. Today's presentation, they're divided into 3 tracks containing 30-minute sessions. The first track is career exploration, and it is designed to improve the students' knowledge about career options. Today, you will hear from employers working in the public service, in STEM, healthcare, business, and health services. So you will get a better sense of what to expect working in these particular industries. You will also learn about what type of education is generally required so you can plan accordingly and set your own goals. The second track is soft skills. Soft skills are those abilities that relate to how you work and how you interact with other people. There are things like adaptability, teamwork, problem solving, creativity. And surveys conducted about which skills employers feel are most important. Year after year, the soft skills are the ones that come up at the top of their list. In this track, you will also learn how to manage time better, work ethic, and adapting to the new norm. The third track is parental engagement. And I want to thank parents that were able to make it to this conference today. Thank you for supporting your children with their education. Parental involvement is essential in a child's education, as research shows that it leads to greater student success and increased confidence. Students are more likely to have higher grades, attend school regularly, and also have better social skills. Topics in this track include budgeting in college, labor market information, diabetes information, and employment and training services available at our Workforce Solutions offices. It does take a lot of work to make an event like this possible, so I want to recognize the Workforce Solutions staff for their hard work in organizing this youth conference. We have over 2,000 registered each day for this conference, representing 13 school districts from Starr, Willacy, and Hidalgo counties. And I want to thank all of our presenters participating in today's sessions. Workforce Solutions appreciates you taking time out of your busy schedules to help students learn about how to successfully transition to post-secondary education or employment. And a special thanks to our educators, counselors, and school administrators who really in the midst of the COVID pandemic, you keep our kids safe while continuing to inspire and prepare them for the future. So I hope everyone enjoys today's conference and have a great day. So I'll turn it back to Ms. Elizabeth.
Thank you, Mr. Almaraz, and for your words and for being one of the many great leaders in our community and to allow events like the Youth Conference to happen in order to continue to empower the leaders of tomorrow. So we will begin our first session at 8:45. Hello, everyone. Hi again. My name is Elizabeth Mesa, and I'm one of the 4 workforce outreach specialists with Workforce Solutions. And I'll be serving as your moderator for today's track for the career exploration track. I'll gladly take this time to introduce the rest of the team that will be assisting me throughout these 2 days. We have Ms. Shelly Sanchez. She is our Community Engagement Deputy Director. Mr. David Gutierrez, who is my immediate supervisor, and the Education Relations Supervisor. Ms. Jasmine Hernandez, my colleague, who is also a Workforce Outreach Specialist. So before we begin, I would like to touch base on a few items. Closed captioning has been enabled. If you would like to use it, you can select the live transcript on the bottom of the screen of the Zoom webinar and just select Show Subtitles to enable the closed captioning option there. The webinar is being live streamed on our Workforce Solutions YouTube page, and it's being recorded for future viewing. All our attendees are muted as soon as they join the webinar, and the video has been inactivated. For any questions that you might have, you can utilize the Q&A box on the bottom of the toolbar to ask any questions that you might have throughout the conference. So our first presentation, it's going to be a video interview with Mr. Patel. Mr. Heathen Patel and his wife, Nicole Morales, are the founders of Nerdvana, a technology and education startup company based in the Rio Grande Valley. Since starting up in April of 2016.
Hello, everyone. My name.
Since starting up in April of 2016, Nerdvana and its programs have directly impacted over 30,000 students of all ages, backgrounds, and socioeconomic status. Their STEM education programs, developed with Rio Grande Valley schools and children in mind, created opportunities for youth to learn about and explore high-value technologies and exciting STEM careers.
My name is Jasmine Hernandez, and I'm a Workforce Outreach Specialist with Workforce Solutions. Today with us, we have a very special guest who's going to give us some information on his profession. Mr. Patel, can you please introduce yourself, your job title, and where you currently work?
Hi, my name is Heathen Patel. I'm the CEO and founder of a technology education company called Nerdvana.
Could you tell me a little bit more about your work and what you do?
Sure. So I started my company with my wife to create more opportunities for students in the Rio Grande Valley to explore STEM and really get a better understanding of what engineering is like in the real world.
How did you become interested in this specific occupation, or actually the whole field in general?
So my background, I studied chemical engineering and I worked in industry as a process engineer. And after my wife and I moved back to the Valley, we just felt there was more that we could do to help the community learn a little bit more about science and engineering and technology in general. And so we started the company to try and solve that problem in 2016. And so now we're in 2021. So I've been doing it for a while. Our programs have reached over 30,000 K through 12 students across South Texas and up into Central Texas as well.
Can you let us know about a project that you've recently worked on?
Sure. So one of the projects that we do a lot of different programs for schools and the partners that we work with. We create things around robotics, 3D printing, programming, any type of technology or engineering area. So one of the projects that we have going on with a group of students is learning more about the forces around bridge building and what that takes in the real world. So we're starting with sort of small scale popsicle stick type structures to begin with, and then we want to see how they can translate that into larger buildings and things like that as they get more experience.
So what type of education, training, or experience, or even background does your job require?
So there's a lot of ways to answer that question, right? Being a business owner requires a lot of different skills other than just a formal education. You have to be really good at time management. You have to know how to talk to a lot of different people about a lot of different things. If you're not just a solo business owner, but you have employees and you have staff, you have to be able to manage other people and make sure that the work that they're doing is at the end of the day contributing to the vision and the goals that you're setting as the business owner. You also have to be really good at math to be a business owner, right? You have to balance a budget. You have to make sure that you're not spending more than you're earning into your business. So you have to be really good at understanding sort of the bigger picture behind things as well.
Do you feel that your background in engineering helped you with your current career?
Oh, definitely. So when I was in my work experience, the role of a process engineer is really unique in the world of engineering. A process engineer is responsible for actually like creating the product that you feel. So for example, one of the things I worked on as an engineer was making toilet paper. Most people don't think there's a lot of science or engineering or technology that goes into making, a 25-cent roll of toilet paper. But there's, I mean, millions and millions of dollars worth of people, engineering, chemicals, machinery, all sorts of stuff that I had no idea about. And so the unique thing about being a process engineer versus like a mechanical engineer or electrical engineer is you're not only responsible for making sure that the product comes out the way it's supposed to, so that every unit that gets made wherever is the same for all the customers. So there's that technical side of knowing how to make the product. And then you also have to balance that against what it costs to make the product. So it's a really unique blend of the engineering and technical side of engineering. But you also have to have a quote unquote business sense in a way, because you want to make sure that the product that you're making is at the cost that you need it to, so that the company can sell it at a price and make a profit. And that's sort of the basis of what a process engineer does. And so those skills really help me as a business owner and as an entrepreneur, because I run in part a business, but I also own an engineering company in a way. We do a lot of technical things around coding, robotics. So there's lots of components and things that need to be put together. So that really scratches the itch for me for the technical, the engineering stuff. But also, again, from my process engineering background, understanding, okay, it costs me X dollars to make a robot. I have to pay my staff. I do have to pay taxes. I have a building, so I have rent and insurance. All these are the things that require balancing against just making a product.
And that's very interesting. When you gave the example of the toilet paper, I was like, no, I've never really thought about everything that goes into making one roll of toilet paper, and that every roll has to be exactly the same way.
Exactly the same, exactly. So process engineers, they kind of touch everything that you touch. So if you drive a car, there's a process engineer involved in making sure the fabric comes out the way it's supposed to. I mean, your phone, there's a process engineer involved in the manufacturing and production of your cell phones, the tablets, the computers that you guys use. I mean, everything. There's a process engineer somewhere in the production line of every single item that you come in contact with.
I know that you did cover like the technical skills needed, but what about in regards to the soft skills? What personal attributes does someone need to have in order to have a position like yours? I know you mentioned time management, but can you emphasize how important that is, and then everything else that's also needed?
Sure. So as far as time management goes, right, it's not just now as a business owner, entrepreneur, you're not just managing your own time, you're managing other people's time. So you're not just worried about what am I going to accomplish today, but rather what is the rest of my team working on to make sure that their work contributes to the overall goals that I set at Nerdvana. On top of time management and people management, really, you do have to have a really good idea of what it is you want to do in a business, right? Most people who start a business may not be really sure what they want to sell, what they want to offer. Knowing those things ahead of time will make sure that you know what you're working towards. Otherwise, you're just going to be chasing your tail. Something else that's really important is communication. That's probably one of the biggest things that I do every day, whether it's spoken like this, in a meeting, or it's written. You, as a business owner, you are going out looking for opportunities to create, a sale or generate some type of revenue. If you can't communicate how you can solve someone's problem, how you can help them, how you can create a benefit for the people you're trying to speak with, more often than not, you're really not going to be very successful. That's probably one of the most important skills that I have, that being an engineer has given me, is I have learned to communicate in a very technical way. So I'm clear, I'm concise. I don't like to send, a paragraph of email if I can do that in 2 words or 2 sentences. So communication is one of those skills that as students, you're going to use for the rest of your life. No matter what role you do, whether you're a parent, whether you're an engineer, a business owner, a teacher, doctor, doesn't matter what you do, you're always going to have to talk to somebody. In my specific role and for the staff of my company, we work with a lot of adults, but we primarily work with students directly. So knowing how to communicate to high school students is a lot different from communicating to 3rd grade students. You have to change your vocabulary, you have to change the way you speak, because at the end of the day, you're competing for their attention, and you want to make sure that they're learning the things that we're supposed to be teaching them through the programs that we offer.
What does a typical day look like for you when it comes to work?
Okay.
Is there a typical day?
A typical day, but for me, it's more of like a typical week. So the way I like to work is I'll schedule everything for my next week, like Thursday or Friday, the week before. And so usually my mornings are just working on email, getting, things like that done, computer work. And then in the afternoons, I'm either working on building a project that we want to test out with students, or working with staff to help them learn some new technology that we just brought in to deliver with our programs. So it's really very active. I'll spend maybe like 3 or 4 hours in front of a computer if I'm working on a bunch of emails or trying to do some research on particular subjects. I'll also do a lot of computer design work. So I create and model a lot of 3D objects on my computer with some software that I have. And that usually takes time, because you do one thing and then you have to iterate and try something differently and come at it from a different angle. And then again, in the afternoons, it's much more kind of running errands. Okay, we need to go pick up supplies, or go get this, go get that, and make sure that everything that we have for our programs is ready to go for students.
What are some of the decisions that you have to make on a daily basis or on a weekly basis?
I mean, there's lots of decisions. The biggest one is usually, where am I going to be spending my time in trying to move my business forward, the vision that I have for Nerdvana. A lot of my time is also involved in making sure that the staff at Nerdvana is also learning and developing new skills. So whether it's taking a class online or working together and collaborating on something new that we want them to work on. Those are some of the bigger decisions that I work with. And then obviously making decisions around budgeting and how we're going to be investing in some new technology, if it's going to be worth it to do that now, if we should wait until a little bit later. Yeah.
I was going to ask you, how did you come up with the name Nerdvana? I was on my way to school with my kids earlier in the morning, and I was telling them that I was going to interview somebody that owns Nerdvana. And my son was like, oh my gosh, like the band Nirvana. I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure it's more like the Buddhist Nirvana, not the band. And then nerd because intelligence.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. So even the band's name Nirvana is like that the ideal of reaching Nirvana, a place of like perfection, right? And so that's why we call the company Nerdvana. So we want to make people who enjoy science, enjoy technology, who are quote unquote nerdy like myself, make them feel like, okay, there's a place for me here in the Valley. I don't have to leave if I can't find something here. And that's sort of the long-term plan for Nirvana. Is we just want to be able to create opportunities, whether it's for students, adults, anybody in the community, to feel comfortable with technology, engineering, and having those types of discussions and experiences.
What aspect of your job do you find the most challenging? And also, what do you find the most rewarding?
Okay, I think I'll start with rewarding first. So the most rewarding, obviously, is we create programs to help the community, specifically students, learn more about the technical world that we live in. I mean, as we're on a video call, right? Someone had to create this, invent it, make it work across the internet, so that when you speak, I hear it as you speak. And that's the rewarding thing, is showing students sort of the behind the scenes of how technology works and what makes the world work around us. That's really, I think, fundamental to me as an engineer, and most engineers, is wanting to understand things, how they work, and that's part of the rewarding aspect of what we do, is teaching students through technology how the world works, why things work the way they work. I would say one of the most challenging things, I mean, right now, definitely one of the most challenging things to work through is the pandemic. You know, we have to be a little bit more careful with students, well, with everybody that we come in contact with, because of the pandemic. I think one of the other challenges that always exists is not enough hours in the day to do all the things that you want to want, that you want or that you want to accomplish. Yeah.
So talking about, because you brought up the pandemic, did you as a business have to rethink of how you approach things in order to be able to provide those services, but in a virtual way? Or did you not go that route? How did you maneuver that?
Sure. So when the pandemic, or the first shutdown happened in, I guess, well, March of last year, it was actually a really big barrier to what we do, because a lot of the programs that we do, they're in person.
They're hands-on. I've seen it,
yeah,
and I've seen you with the students, and they're grabbing and touching, and
so it's a little bit difficult to create that type of experience and deliver that successfully, because a lot of the work that we do with students, it's not just one student working on one thing. There's a group of students working together on different parts of a project that all has to come together at the same time. And that's a little difficult when students are all at home. They can't get together. So we did have to rethink a lot of the ways that we deliver lessons, the projects that we do with the technology that we have, so that students would be able to work on things individually and then share their experiences in like a video classroom setting. But yeah, it was definitely a really, really big barrier for us when the pandemic happened. We had a lot of programs that we had to stop immediately because of the pandemic and schools closing. But luckily, we were able to offer some of our programs online with some of our partners, for the students that were interested in coding and robotics and things like that. And then now that schools are open again, we are starting to very safely go back to schools and work with students again.
that's super awesome. Do you work normally by yourself, or do you work more with a team? I know you mentioned that you do have a team, but do you work with them often, or how does that work for you?
Sure. So for most of the week, I'm usually by myself. Most of my team they work at different sites, so there's not a lot of work at the office for them to do unless they're coming to pick up supplies or pick up a different set of technologies to use with students. When I'm out at our partner campuses working with students, that's when I'll work more directly with the team, and interact with not just my team, but the students that we're working with. About 2 or 3 times a month, we'll have sort of like a training at our office. So everyone will come back to our office, all of our staff, go through the new projects, the new lessons that we've developed, get them comfortable with it, get them to go through the entire activity so they know where the students may have difficulties, and what the end result and what we want the students to learn at the end of the project, and what those goals are. So it's really a bit of a blend. Sometimes I'm by myself. A lot of times, mostly in the afternoons, is when I'm working with other people in my office.
Besides your team and the students, what other individuals do you work with? Do you work with school staff? Do you work with a bookkeeper to keep track of that, or do you do it on your own? How does that work for you?
Sure. So other than the students and my staff, we work with a lot of different individuals, whether that's in person or over the phone, over email. And it could be anybody from a school district to people that are in like the repair departments for the technology that we use. So we work with school principals, assistant principals, superintendents, different administration individuals at different school districts as well. So not just at the campus, but in central office as well. We'll work with other individuals from time to time based on the things that we're looking for. So if we need to repair some technology, we need to get something different. We'll try and contact different individuals at different organizations, whether that's places like Apple or Google for computers, laptops, that type of thing, as well as the technologies that we use. So we use a lot of different robots, different drones, things like that we've created. So we're always looking for replacement parts and things to repair and make things a little bit better.
When it comes to your balance for work, when it comes to your balance in regards to your work life and your personal life, is there a balance, or is it harder because you are a business owner, so you have to be answering calls after normal business hours? How does that look like for you?
I mean, work-life balance as a business owner, it really depends on the decisions that you make and the type of business that you're in. Luckily for me, most of my work takes place, normal business hours, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. But there are times where, I'm at the office at 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes, working on something that I may need to meet a deadline for, or.
And that would be that you wake up extra early because that's how your mind works, or that you stayed up late?
Oh, no, I stayed up late. Yeah, I stayed up late. And that's one of the things about being a business owner is it's not just, you don't just show up at 9 and leave at 5. Sometimes there are things that you have to do on a Saturday morning or Sunday evening before the week starts, because someone sent an email and said, hey, I need X, Y, and Z, but I need it by tomorrow. And it's Saturday. So what are you gonna do? You can either lose the opportunity, or you can wait, and that may have a consequence for your business. So, I mean, sometimes it just depends on some of the projects that I'm working on. There was a project where we were making trebuchets or catapults, and so we still have those, right? But we were working on those on weekends for about 3 or 4 weeks to actually build the catapults before we even got to test them. So there's a lot of work that I do outside of normal business hours that contributes to what happens in my business. And most business owners will tell you the same thing, right? Is you can work 9 to 5, but you want to be doing more in your business and creating it and taking it to the next level, so that you can do other things and create more opportunities, not just for the business, but also for your staff who may be looking for a promotion or want to take on more responsibility. And so sometimes that takes up a lot of time as well, is talking to your team and understanding where they want to go, in not just in this company, but if they ever decide to leave. I want to make sure that they've not only had a great experience working for Nerdvana, but they have skills that they can take with them to their next job or career, or wherever they end up going, that has some value for them.
What piece of advice would you provide to students when it comes to preparing for a career like yours, in both the business side of it and also the STEM side?
Okay, so advice on the business side, learn how to prioritize the work that you want to get done. And that's not just work that you yourself have to do, but the work that needs to be accomplished in your business. Sometimes, I mean, it takes practice to learn how to do that. It's not something that you're just born with.
So they should start in school, right?
Ideally, yeah, learning how to manage time, how to make decisions. Sometimes it's hard to make decisions when you have to go 3 different ways and you can only pick 1 or 2. You have to say no a lot of times in a business as a business owner, because there's a budget that you have to manage, because you have to work as the business owner. You're worried about not just making money for yourself, but you also have to make sure that everybody who works for you gets their paycheck on time. And you have to make decisions around that. And that's one of the biggest things as a business owner you'll make decisions around, is when are you going to hire staff? How much are you going to pay them? Can you afford to have staff? Or is it better for you to do the work? Those are all things that you have to balance as a business owner. Advice for business in general is the number one thing: learn how to communicate very, very effectively. the more time you waste communicating, that means there's less time to actually get things done throughout the day. So you really want to be very good at communication, whether it's verbally or written. You really have to be good at that. Time management, like I said earlier, is a really big thing. But more important than time management, I think it's better to say it's like task management, making sure that you, again, work on the things that will move your business forward, not just doing busy work like filling paper in the copier, things like that. That's not going to help you as a business owner move things forward. As an engineer, one of the things that I've found very useful is to just never stop learning. And that doesn't mean, I go to class and I stop and I turn my brain off at 4 o'clock when I get home. But if you have an interest in something, it doesn't necessarily have to be math or science or engineering or anything like that, but always have an interest in learning how the world works, what makes things happen in real life. Right. And then, one of the things that we hear from students is they're really interested and excited and want to learn how to become sort of social media stars, right? They want to be on TikTok or they want to be on YouTube, whatever it is. So the advice that I give students who tell me that is, that's great. Go and try and do that. See if you can find more information about how to start a YouTube channel. How long does it take to create content? What you see on YouTube isn't the first take, isn't the first shot of something that they've done. Maybe they spent 6 hours editing, a 30-minute video. There's a lot of time that goes into creating things like that, and a lot of people don't know that. So we like to challenge students to always think about how things are going to get done before you make a decision on if you're going to do it.
What factors other than education and experience may impact somebody's ability to work in your position?
I think other than education and experience, one of the things that you need to be, one of the things that you need to have, whether you're a business owner, an engineer, anybody in the workforce, is you have to have a drive to succeed, a drive to want to do better. That I think, to me, it doesn't, I don't know how to explain that. It's
So
just
if they lack that drive, then it will become a factor in actually working in that, right?
Exactly, right. And so you want to always be looking for where the next step is. And if you become complacent, that's how you get bored. You may not enjoy things anymore, especially the work that you do. You can, by the time you guys reach the workforce, you'll spend the majority of your day at your job and a minimal amount of time at home or with your family, right? And so you have to really find fulfillment in the work that you do, and you have to be able to find it enjoyable. You could be the smartest person in the room, you could have the most experience, but if you just don't like what you do, why would you want to spend the majority of your day, the majority of your life doing things you just don't want to do? Enjoy what you do, right? That's one of the things that I would say is probably more important than education and experiences. If you enjoy what you do, then it makes it easier to go get the education that you want, because you know that the education that you're getting is going to support the thing that you love.
What is the best career decision that you've ever made?
The best career decision I've ever made.
There's some students that like to see the facial expression, so they saw your go.
Yeah, that's a hard question, right? Because so my work experience is different than most people in the working environment. I worked as an engineer for a few years, and I decided that wasn't gonna be the best fit for me, because, and I mean, this is gonna be an experience that I'll share in this conversation. When I was an engineer, this was probably in the mid 2010s. There was a day I went to work, and most of the office was really quiet. Usually I get to work at 6:45, 7 o'clock in the morning, and usually at that time the office is pretty busy, right? Because the night shift is finishing, and then the morning crew is coming in to take things over for the rest of the day. And there was a day where, things were just really quiet in the morning. And I noticed there were a lot less people in the office. So I later found out that at that day, a lot of the people who were working in my department at the facility, they were let go, to for whatever the reason was, for the company to do that. But it was all of a sudden, no one knew what was going to happen. And they were just told, hey, thanks for everything. Leave your badge with security on the way out, and thank you for everything. And as a young engineer and as a young person in the workforce, it was a really eye-opening experience in that at the end of the day, doesn't matter how good you are, how well you're paid, if you have a job, you may not have one tomorrow. And that was just in my early 20s at that time. And I think that really changed my perspective of if I wanted to be an employee for the rest of my life. And so I think that got me started on my journey in entrepreneurship and business ownership much earlier than I would have expected. My family all owns businesses, so my parents, my uncle, everybody I know in my family, they're all business owners. And so I always knew I wanted to be a business owner someday. I just didn't think it would come so quickly. I started Nerdvana with my wife when we were both 24, 25. So I've been a business owner for a lot more than I've worked as an employee somewhere else. And that's because of the experience I had in the work environment in my early 20s. And that's not to say that that's going to happen to everybody, but it's one of those things that no one had ever told me that when I was at school, when I was in college. It just never came up. I had never heard that, hey, we might just let half your department go today. And I always wondered, if that's a reality, why wasn't I educated about the reality of workforce? And so that's why I started my own business, and I do the best I can to make sure that I don't do that to my staff. Yeah,
because that does happen in a lot of industries. A lot of
Yeah,
people
it
get let go,
happens.
and that's
Definitely.
not something that you go in thinking, okay, I'm going to work in this occupation. Maybe they'll let me go one day, maybe they won't. And sometimes it happens where it's like 50% of the employees, and it's unexpected.
Yep, it's one of those things that as young people entering the workforce, you'll have to be aware of, right? It could happen to you. It could happen to me. It could happen to the person sitting next to you in the cubicle or in your office. So just be aware. I mean, it's not a nice lesson to have to share. I wish I could give you something better, a little bit more happier, but that is the world that we live in, and knowing that. And one of the ways around that, right, is, again, kind of goes back to loving what you do. If you end up, if your first job or second job or third job ends up with you being terminated, that doesn't mean that's the only job you're ever going to have for the rest of your life. There's other places to do the things that you love, and you can always go find other work. It just may be difficult at the time. You may have to wait. You may have to go back to school and learn some new skills. But I think maybe going back to one of your other questions about what's more important, in addition to education experience, is adaptability, right? Learning how to work in changing circumstances. I mean, everyone's had a crash course in that, in 2020, right? Everything closed and everyone had to work remotely or do things differently. Everybody had to adapt. It didn't matter if you were a teacher, a doctor, a lawyer, it doesn't matter. Everybody had to learn how to adapt to changing circumstances, and that's going to be a much more valuable skill in the workforce going forward, because who knows when the next big change is going to happen. Maybe it's not a pandemic, maybe it's something else. And knowing how to respond confidently to things like that will make you much more valuable, not just to your team or to your company, but in yourself. If you end up losing a job or missing a position somewhere, knowing how to adapt the skills that you have to find a different job is going to be something that's critical to your survival in the workforce.
So talking about skills, thinking back to your very, very first job, how did it play a role in developing any of the skills that you currently have for this position that you have as a business owner and also working in the STEM industry?
So my first job was in engineering, and sometimes when you start a new job, you don't really know what to expect. And this was one of those cases. So this was when I was working with the company that makes the toilet paper, and I had no idea any of the things that it takes to make toilet paper. So everything was like an eye-opening experience. And I think one of the things that I took away from that, like I mentioned earlier, is being adaptable. I didn't think I was going to require any business thinking in my job. But the people that I worked with, these guys were like the engineers that you want to learn from at the company. And they were really great mentors in telling me and kind of teaching me how to be a really good engineer, how to go find the problems before they happen, and how to solve them so that, at the end of the day, you are accomplishing things at your job. And that's really what process engineering is about, is trying to find the problems before they happen, and then before it affects the product and the quality of the product that gets put out. One of the things that at that job specifically, there were weeks where you're normally working 40 or 50 hours, and then there were some weeks where you're working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. And that's really intense, right? Knowing that I'm gonna come at 6 o'clock in the morning and I may not leave until 8 o'clock at night. And that's one of the
fun,
things,
sir. Super fun.
yeah, long days. But that's one of the things that's really benefited me as a business owner, is that I have a really good work ethic because of that. So, if I have to wake up at 6 and I go home at 10 o'clock at night, that's fine. I've done that before. It's not something I want to choose to do. But if there's work to be done, then I know I can get it done in as quickly as I possibly can. And that's one of the things that I've really learned, that I took away from my very first job, is don't be afraid to work long hours. You may not get paid for them. You may not get compensated.
Well, hopefully they do get paid for them.
Well, you get paid for overtime and things like that. But, sometimes you just have to pitch into the team and just take it for the team, because, at the end of the day, everyone needs to do the work. And if you're not helping, it's going to take everybody long. And I think that'll be another thing that I took away from my first job. That's really important, is the idea that you want to be a part of a team. As a business owner, there's no way I could do 100% of all the work that I need to do to move my business forward. It's just not possible. And so knowing how to cultivate trust and team building with your staff is something that's really valuable. And that's something that I really, really learned from the first group of people that I worked with as an engineer.
Do you have any last words for the students?
Any last words? I think the biggest thing, I think I mentioned this before, is even if you're in a job that you don't really enjoy, there are ways for you to excel. Just because you have a job now doesn't mean that's going to be your job for the rest of your life. You can always learn more on your own time and apply for a different position or get a promotion. There's always going to be an opportunity to do something different if you can't find what you love right now. As young people who are going to be entering the workforce, there's more jobs now than I think they can find people to fill. So knowing what you want to do is going to be much more important when you get to university, because then you can find the right educational pathway to get you to where you want to be. Don't just pick something because it's going to be easy, especially in university. You want to learn the skills. Think of university as a dry run for the workforce, right? That's where you're going to learn how to communicate a lot better. You're going to learn how to write a lot better. Think of university as a place where you can find and build the skills that you're going to need to be successful in the job or the career that you are interested in exploring when you become a professional.
Mr. Patel, thank you again for taking the time to do this interview. The information that you shared is extremely valuable and it is going to impact a lot of students. Guys, if you're interested in learning about this career or any other career, feel free to explore Texas Reality Check, Texas Career Check, Career Coach, or Own It. And all those links can be found on our website, wfsolutions.org. Thank you for watching.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, I'd like to thank Mr. Patel for joining, for doing that video. Hopefully you all got something out of it. As always, I want to let you all know that those videos and all the other videos that you'll see today and tomorrow from the employers are on our employer interview library that is accessible through our Google Drive. If you do not already have access and you're a teacher and would like to access that, so you can show these and other videos, which we currently have about 40 interviews and different industries, and you'd like to share those with your students at any time, please reach out to us at WF Solutions, David at wfsolutions.org, and ask for an access request form, and we'll get you access so you can share those with your students. Each video comes with a quiz of 5 questions that you can either use for grading or if you want to check for retention with your students. All the quizzes, all the videos come with that. So just again, if you're looking for some type of career exploration and checking that off on your P-Tech or your STEM or early college blueprint, these are all perfect examples of how you could use it to check mark those. So we're going to go ahead and move on to our next employer. Just bear with me. All right, we're gonna, next up is Miss Ana Chavarria. Ms. Chavarria is a training coordinator for Grifols. She joined Grifols in 2017 as a donor care technician and became the area lead. With her having an education and desire to grow within the company, she was given the training coordinator position. Anna's responsibilities as a trainer coordinator is to train staff on any changes on current and new procedures. She also overlooks designated trainers in each of the areas within our center. Anna also introduces new hires to our center during the first 4 days of orientation. Anna has a huge responsibility. Good training will reflect on how knowledgeable an individual will become and perform.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jasmine Hernandez. I'm a workforce outreach specialist with Workforce Solutions. Today with us, we have a very special guest who's going to be providing some information on her profession. Ms. Chavarria, can you please introduce yourself, your job title, and where you currently work?
Yes, my name is Ana Chavarria. I am the training coordinator for the mission Biomat, which is a plasma center here mission.
So I know you stated Biomat, but as your logo and your actual organization, it is also known as Grifols, or how does that work?
Yes, so Grifols, it's the company, but it's also called Biomat. So
if they see Biomat, they know that it's Grifols. Great.
yes.
Can you tell me a little bit more about your job, your work, or a recent project that you've done or completed?
Okay, so I am in charge of the training department here. So basically, I am in charge of making sure that every training, every new hire that comes in comes through me. So that's just basically my day-to-day.
How did you become interested in this occupation or this field?
Okay, so I went to college. I have it's a biochemistry background. When I started this position, I was about a year with the company, but I started as a donor center technician, so I started from the bottom.
And for us that may not know, what is a donor center technician? What are those duties?
Okay, so as a donor center technician, you are mainly in the reception area. So you are the first person that gets to have contact with the donor. So after they answer their questions, you screen them. So you want to make sure that they are suitable to donate. So I did that for about a year until I got this position.
And I know you stated donor. So for us to have a little bit more background information, what type of donations are done at Biomat?
Okay, so here at Biomat, we do plasma donations. It's a little bit, it takes a less toll in the body than a regular blood donation. So we have a process called plasmapheresis, which is separating the plasma from the blood. And we only take the plasma, of course, and we return the blood components to the donor.
What type of education, training, or background does your job require?
So for the donor center technician that I talked about, we hired from medical assistants or any type of maybe CNAs if you're interested, but it's not required. So the only requirement will be like high school diploma, but if you do have some experience, it also works. Phlebotomists, we hire phlebotomists as well. But for my position, it will be, I guess, just some experience in the plasma and just any type of, a little bit of management maybe.
What type of skills, abilities, and personal attributes are essential to be successful in your position?
For my current position, I think being reliable, I think showing up every day, it's a must. Being responsible, I mean, other people depend on me. If I am late or I don't show up and I have a new person coming in, it would be a huge impact. So just being reliable, honest, quality oriented, they are the qualities that we need for this position.
What does your typical day look like for you in your position?
I'm going to talk about like a Monday that I come in. So I usually work the 5 days a week. On a Monday, I will come in, log in, check my emails, check to see if there's any training pendings. I walk around to check up on my new hires, if I have any, to talk to my trainers, to see how things are doing. I start a to-do list, making sure that I know what needs to get done today or the rest of the week. And it's just like that. And then I have a few roadblocks. Sometimes I have like unexpected meetings, so I just have to adjust, to that.
What are some of the decisions that you make on a daily basis?
It could be from, a small decision to delegate, what type of trainings need to be started. And like the most important decision that I have is just to choose a designated trainer, but I also like to include like my management team with me, even though, I'm the one that manages the training department, but I try to hear other people's opinions.
What is the most challenging part about your position as a trainer?
I think challenges, it's mainly having people on board with you, but communication is the key. So I really don't see it as a challenge. And it's just mainly that when, trying to get everybody to see what needs to get done.
What is the most rewarding part of your position?
I think just seeing everybody be successful. Like I said, as a training coordinator, I am the first person that they meet. And once I see them, performing out there and being successful and feeling confident, it's the most rewarding.
So talking about success, how does it look like for you?
I think through them, just making sure that if everybody is being confident and they're doing great out there, that is a success for me.
Are there any professional development opportunities when it comes to your position?
Definitely. There are also always like new trainings or courses available through our academy that I can take. I'm right now part of a cohort program, which is development for leadership. And there's always trainings and courses that you can take, but hopefully, one day I can be an assistant manager and these courses will help me.
Do you work more individually or do you work more as a team member?
I like to say team, even though, like I said, I am the only one that manages my department, but I do have trainers, that I have under me, and I like them to feel part of, my department. So, and when it comes to management, they include me in their management team. So yeah, I think I'm part of a team.
So what other individuals do you work with besides management? Do you work, I know you mentioned phlebotomists and donor technicians. Do you work with any other individuals like that?
Well, like I said, my designated trainers are from all the areas. So donor center technicians, phlebotomists, and plasma processors. So I work with all of them. I also work with nurses. I have designated trainers that are nurses. So I work with the medical department as well. I work with the center medical director, which is our doctor that comes in and checks our center out every week.
Can you describe your typical work and personal life balance? Is it balanced or is it hard to keep that balance? Is it 50-50? How does that work for your position?
I think that at the beginning it was a little bit hard, to just leave work and be okay. I think that with the time, I've been doing this for almost 3 years and I have a backup now. So I feel really confident leaving work and knowing that things are getting done. I have a lot of communication with my team, so I feel comfortable, taking the weekend off or maybe a week off. I know things will get done.
Does your job affect your general lifestyle?
It doesn't. It doesn't anymore. Like I said at the beginning, it was a little hard for me just to let go, but it's so rewarding when you see other people, not needing your help so much. And that's what I try to do, just make sure that everybody's good. So when I'm not here, it's still success.
What would you recommend students to do in order to prepare for a career like yours?
I think that as long as you are a responsible person, if you have, like I said, a background in the medical field, it helps. But as long as you have the initiative and you're a hard worker, you can have my position or even be like part of management, as long as you guys show initiative.
What other factors besides education and experience may impact somebody's ability to work in your field?
As a plasma center that works 7 days, that is open 7 days a week, you do need some availability on the schedule. But other than that, if you have, an emergency or maybe you are enrolled in school, management does work with you. So that would be, I think, the only one.
If by any chance, because it is in the medical field or in the healthcare industry, if somebody has a criminal background, let's say that a student did a mistake, right, when they were younger and they wanted to get into that field, would that be a possibility or would they have to have a clean background?
They do a background check. I really will lie if I know how harsh they are. But they can always try.
Okay, so it would be like on a case-by-case basis, kind of.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. What is the best career decision that you've ever made?
I think applying for this job, to be honest. Like I said, I started from the very bottom. Like I started as a regular line staff and being consistent and, like right now, like I told you, I have a college education, but I did have it in Mexico. So right now I'm working towards bringing it to the United States. so that way I can pursue, a better position.
How do you organize your time? I'm assuming that you're always super busy and then having to coordinate things with your trainers. What helps you organize it?
I've tried everything. I think a little bit of everything. Like I mentioned earlier, I do to-do lists and I have like reminders on my Outlook. I have like all sorts of lists to help me coordinate. I do have roadblocks, like I said, here and there, but I try to work around them, prioritize, whatever needs to get done the earliest, so that way I'll have a little bit more time with the farthest items.
Is there anything that you read in order to help you with your job or even your personal life?
I take some courses on the academy. I'm not much of a reader, but I do listen. So I try to look for motivational videos on like YouTube and stuff that will help me. I also have taken some courses online with a company to develop, and to help me with my time management and to leadership.
I know that you've mentioned the academy several times. So for us that may not know, what exactly is the academy with Biomat?
Okay, so the academy is like I'm going to call it a school within Grifols. We do have 2 locations, but we also can take some courses online. So here at the center, sometimes we get offered courses quarterly, and we can choose from those and just make sure we complete them. Or they can send us out to these academies to learn about how to fix a machine or maybe other leadership courses that you might take.
Oh, that's super awesome because those are skills that are needed and they're transferable skills, right?
Yes.
What do you think is the secret to getting to where you're at right now?
I think just being consistent, being quality oriented, being motivated will be some.
What current issues and trends in the field should an individual be familiar with in order to be successful or to be up to date?
I think mainly to us at the beginning of the pandemic, it did hit us a little bit because people were afraid, to come in and donate. But once they realized how safe it was, how we were taking care of them and taking care of us, the more the donors started to come in and, trusting us to make sure that we were collecting, the product in a safe way. We also have a COVID program where we collect convalescent plasma. It's for the people that have the antibodies for COVID. So that's one of the programs that we started after the pandemic and trying, to work with the medicine.
Thinking back to your very first position, how did it play a role in developing your skills that you use right now?
Everything just because before I started the position, I kind of knew like what it was, a plasma center. But once you're here, you learn so much. And I started, like I said, as a regular DCT. And then once I was here for a couple of months, I became a designated trainer. And being a designated trainer helped me a lot, dealing with all types of persons. And then once I was a designated trainer, I became a lead. So I developed even more skills like for leadership. I learned to have a lot of patience. I learned how to talk to people, and all of that has helped me a lot, where I'm at right now.
Ms. Chavarria, do you have any last words for the students?
Guys, if you would really be interested, someday working with Grifols, I assure you that you will not regret it. It's a family-based company. We do something really special, from collecting plasma, helping others. If you're ever interested, even in becoming a donor, you don't have to work, but you can also come and donate and help somebody.
Thank you, Ms. Chavarria, for taking the time to complete this interview. Guys, if you are interested in this position or any other position, feel free to research through Texas Reality Check, Texas Career Check, Career Coach, or Own It. And all these links can be found on our website, wfsolutions.org. Thank you for watching.
Hello, everyone. We do have Ms. Ana Chavarria available for questions and answers. So if you have any questions for her, just go ahead and include them in the Q&A box or on the chat, and we will have her live to answer any questions that you might all have. Ms. Chavarria?
Good morning.
Good morning, Ms. Chavarria. So we do have a couple of questions. What tools or equipment is needed for your position as a trainer at Biomat?
For training coordinator specifically, it's only computer, we train in everything that you need to know here. So basically it's just, I'm in an office, so I only use like computers, printers, all of that.
Do you have to be familiar with any of the equipment that you use to train your staff?
Of course, but like I said, prior to having my position, you would have to train in all the areas. So as a training coordinator, we are trainers in the reception, on the floor for phlebotomy and plasma processors. So you would have to go through all that training first, and then you can become a training coordinator. So you have to be familiar with all the processes, basically.
Do you have any interactions with customers who enter Biomat at the facility as a trainer yourself?
Yes. So it seems like we're always like stuck in office or maybe just doing observations and stuff, but you do have interactions with the donors. When you're out there and you're just observing, you can always, have that contact with the donors, answer any questions as well. Sometimes you are observing the newest hires, so they might not know everything. So we're there, to be that support and answer any questions that they might have, or maybe just try to convince and recruit like more donors and stuff like that. But we do have, that contact with the donors.
So you mentioned in the interview that you were able to move up with the company. So what factors contributed for you to make that move?
Well, I started, like I said, as a receptionist. So it was I was very motivated at all the times, like of what I was learning. Like I came in from not knowing what a plasma center was. Like I had the background of, like drawing blood and what plasma was, but not really of the process that we would take care of here. So when I started to learn all of this, and it was just something really cool that I got to do, and I got to learn other areas, and just being consistent, being motivated, wanting to help others, wanting to help the newest people in is what got me where I'm at right now.
Jasmine, is there any other questions on the Q&A box or on the chat?
As of right now, we do not have any other questions.
Okay, as of right now, we don't have any other questions. You are more than welcome to raise your hand if you have any questions as well. That way we could enable you to be able to ask your questions live. Well, there seems to not be any other questions, Ms. Chavarria. Thank you so much for your time and for coming live to the conference today. So we hope to see you soon as well. And thank you for joining us. For those of you watching, we will start our next session at 9:55.
Thank you, guys.
Hello, everyone. So our next session for the day is Mr. Chief Manuel Muniz. So we're going to go ahead and play his video. Just a reminder, if you have any questions at the end of the video, you're more than welcome to unmute yourself if Mr. Fire Chief is available. Mr. Manuel Muniz, he does work with Rio Grande City Fire Department. Chief Manuel Muniz began his career by attending the Rio Grande Valley Fire Academy in 1998 through the Rio Grande City Fire Department. He gradually moved up the ranks, becoming a firefighter, engineer, and lieutenant. In 2007, he was appointed as Assistant Fire Chief and served in the capacity for over 12 years. Chief Muniz was sworn in as a Fire Chief for the City of Rio Grande City Fire Department on July 10, 2009. Professional careers include Advanced Firefighter, Fire Inspector and Plant Examiner, Fire Investigator, Fire Instructor, Emergency Certified Technician, attended Texas A&M Engineer Extension Service, and successfully completed training for Hazmat Emergency Response Technician, PPE Fire Officer, Emergency Operations Center, Operations and Planning for All Hazards, Arson Detection for First Responders, Incidents Command System, Incident Safety Officer, and under the U.S. Department of Homeland Security completed all NIMS certification trainings. Hello, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Mesa, and I'm a Workforce Outreach Specialist with Workforce Solutions. Today with us, we have a very special guest from the law and public service industry who will be giving us some information on his profession. Mr. Fire Chief Muniz, can you please introduce yourself, your job title, and where you currently work?
Yes, good day for everyone. My name is Manuel Muniz. I'm the Fire Chief for the Rio Grande City Fire Department. I'm also the Emergency Manager Coordinator for the City of Rio Grande. And I work here at the Rio Grande City Fire Department.
Thank you for that. Could you now tell us how you became interested in your occupation?
Well, I joined the department back many years ago. Actually, I've been here for about 23 years, going on 24 years. And realistically, like everybody has minds when they're growing up, I want to be a firefighter, I'll be law enforcement. But it really didn't hit me when I got into my preteen years afterwards, you know. But eventually, throughout my process of my career, I decided there was an opening, and I decided to take it. It wasn't something that I followed, but towards my lifetime, I looked at the opportunity. I had the opportunity, so I took it, and I've been enjoying it ever since.
So that's why you took it a step further and continue
Yes.
moving with the company as well, right?
Correct.
Especially
I
with
started
law
as a cadet, you know, go to the academy, and then from being a cadet, graduating, then I went into becoming a firefighter, hired as a firefighter, and then you go up, and I followed I went up the ladders, went to become an engineer, which is a driver, and then I became a lieutenant, and then I became an assistant fire chief 12 years ago. Well, actually 14 years ago, and about 2 years ago, they gave me the opportunity to become fire chief when a previous fire chief retired, and I took the opportunity, and I was given that position, along with the emergency management, also part of it.
Well, congratulations, Mr. Muniz, on that
Very much. Thank you very much.
that attribute that you got there, that promotion. That's a great promotion. So what kind, I know you mentioned like the certifications, was there any particular type of education that you needed in order to do your position or do your job?
Well, to become a firefighter, the first step to become a firefighter, you do have to get training. You have to complete over 640 some hours of firefighter training classes. I went through TSTI back when they had an academy going on. But you can also get it at local STC. You get to go into fire science. You could go into the program, firefighting. They offer some colleges. And in my case, I went to a local academy in the Valley, the Lower Rio Grande Valley Academy, and back in 1998. And I got certified. And I went into 2 weeks. After that, you get 2 weeks of first responders, basically medical background. And then from there, you get hired on. You get your certifications and you get hired on. I got hired on.
What skills, abilities, and personal attributes are essential to succeed in your field?
Well, you have to have good people skills. Obviously you have to have a lot of patience. You have to be, like I said, good people skills and get along with different types of persons, their backgrounds. Because your job is just one job and it's to do it correctly. So basically that is the main one, having the basic skills, and also being in good health, getting good physical condition, because being a firefighter, you do have to have good physical condition to become a firefighter, because you put up with a lot of trainings and different types of weather. And down here in South Texas, it's hot sometimes, well, most of the time. So you have to have good physical conditions as well as people skills. And you have to love you just have to love it, in other words, to continue the process.
Can you describe what your typical workday looks like for you?
For me, as the fire chief of the department, my typical workday consists of me coming in the morning. Obviously, I work from 8 to 5, but I sometimes come a lot earlier than that and leave a lot later than that. I don't have really a set hour. But I look at I open up my emails, check my whatever I have pending, whatever I have emailed, and then my day-to-day operations. I'm also in charge of the fire inspections for the city. I do plan reviews. I'm also a fire investigator. So if any fire investigating needs to be done, I also help with my local firefighters to do fire investigations. But my in-the-end deal is making sure everybody has their proper training. All your firefighters are up to date with their trainings. Any classes they need, any certificates they need to update, redo, is the process that I have to keep up and make sure they have it. And at the end of every year, we have to make sure that our guys are continuing their education. I'm also an instructor for this department. That means I give CE hours. Every firefighter needs to keep at least 20 hours of firefighting activities to be current with the Texas Commission on Fire Protection, which is your certification. And I just make sure the equipment on the vehicles are running at all times. I'm just making sure I manage that. And then just any other things that pop up, most of the time. But that's what we're doing. I do a lot of things for the community. We do classes. We go to businesses that require classes on fire extinguishers. We'll give them classes on fire extinguishers. We go and do public safety to the buildings. We do little fire drills, and when it comes to schools and other types of large quantity of employees, they like to have fire drills, and we'll go ahead and conduct fire drills for them also. I mean, there's a lot of things that we do, that I do, that I set the course for my employees, firefighters to do throughout the day. So basically, that's what I do.
So that's a lot of responsibilities, especially because you're fire chief, right?
Yes.
So
Well,
I know you mentioned the fire investigation. So I've never heard of that. What does that consist of? Like, what is it that you have to do in order to investigate those or do those fire investigations?
Well, again, that is a certification type of profession type. Also, it's part of your advancement. If you want to have it, not every firefighter becomes one, but you want to be considered a fire investigator, you have to go to the class for it. And once you get your certification as a fire investigator, basically you just here we have several of them that are fire investigators. Whenever there's a fire and that requires an investigation of that fire, whether it be a fire of a vehicle, of a structure fire, or any type of structure, we do that investigation. We collect evidence, we process the evidence, we send it forward for any evidence that we gathered, and we just follow the steps as far as if there's an outcome to it, whether it be an arson case, or it be an accidental case, or it be undetermined sometimes. So it all depends on the size of the fire. Like I said, every shift, there's 3 different types of shifts that work. A shift A, B, and C. Everybody has a fire investigator in that particular shift. Myself with my assistant, we're also fire investigators. And whenever they need additional help, we do tend to help out those fires.
Interesting. So I know with your job, decisions that you have to make are sometimes unexpected. So how do you make those decisions, and how do you evaluate which one is more urgent and which one is less urgent, or which one needs to be taken to the matter at this moment? How do you make those decisions?
Well, it depends. It depends on, first of all, if you're involving individuals' life safety, for example. If any decisions have to be done that is really considered life safety, and then that's the overall. If you take life safety over property, we'll go for the more of a life safety than we care about a property, and then vice versa, and then it just goes down from there. And as far as decisions here, things that are important for us to maintain, there's different things coming up in the same day. I tend to separate my guys to go and do certain jobs. Sometimes we do, I mean, we're a small fire department. Sometimes we do get calls that are requiring 2 different types or 3 calls within one particular time frame, and we just need to decide how to disperse the individuals, and that's part of the decision making that we do. Basically, it's just it. And as far as classes also, I mean, it also involves if it's beneficiary for the city to have our guys train on different types of topics, and then we'll have them done that as well. We do send them to class to get that done.
So I know like sometimes there might be a fire in a different city that maybe it's too big, and do you all get called to go help out as well?
Yes, we
Or
do. We do a lot of mutual aid. It's called mutual aid. We get called to grass fires, large grass fires, structure fires. Sometimes they just need more water. In these rural communities, that's what's lacking, water. So we have tankers, we have trucks that carry a lot of volume of water, 2,000 gallons. And if sometimes they call, they just need manpower. We'll send a truck full of guys. If they call us that they need water, because obviously we'll send a guy with one of those large trucks to go supply with water. And us brush trucks too. We do have to go fight grass fires. We also send out people. They have to first request it in order for us to go. That's why people need to understand that the city has a limit, city limits, and there's certain areas around this communities that you might say it's Rio Grande City. At least that's what it says on the, but not in reality. In reality, it's not. There is city limits that we have to cover, and we cover ourselves. Before we go out to adjacent community, we have to get called to do it. Sometimes if it's life-threatening, like for example, a structure fire, that takes, they'll let us know as well, and we'll go. We won't wait for them to call us. If it's somewhere nearby, we'll tend to go. But by all means, we do help out, as they do us too. They help us when we request help. They do also come and do help us out on large fires, structure fires. We've done it so many times. But for the most part, yes, any fires involving outside our city limits, for the most part, they need to request for us to go in order to do it for it.
That like all the communities like tend to work together in order to help the people out.
Yes.
So
Yes.
can you tell me about a project that you're currently working on, or if you're working on a currently project, what does a project consist of?
Right now, we're in the process of getting 2 more engine companies. We might be getting them sometime in November, 2 brand new fire trucks. This past year, we recently acquired a brand new tanker and a brush truck, so that the city was kind enough to acquire that for us, and we got those already. Right now, we're working on 2 other trucks that, like I said, we have pending for a couple of months from now. We also have a new public safety building that's going to be built over here by the new 755 loop. It's a public safety building. That means it's going to be housing the fire department, the police department, and the municipal court. and we're going to be sharing a building for that. And that isn't a project, and that will probably won't be completed until maybe late next year. And by that time also, we might be getting more employees, hiring more, because we're going to be keeping the stations going, the one that we're currently at, as well as the that one at the new location as well. So we might be going out looking for individuals, firefighters, in the near future. Okay.
It's really great that you're expanding that. And what is your role in that project? What is it that you do, or how do you communicate with what is needed for the fire department?
Well, I'm the head of the department, so that means any decision that has to be made, I'll make it. If I'm not available, I have my assistant to also make it, those decisions. If I'm not available, they cannot get a hold of me. But for the most part, anything that relates to us or to our department, it has to come through us, to the administration office. So any decisions, at least we know what's going on. When it's out there in the public, whether it be an incident, whether it be a vehicle accident, any type of incidents, so suppression personnel take care of that. We hardly go, myself and my assistant, we do go and help out sometimes, but for the most part, they take care of that. Any issues that will go when they need assistance as well. You know, it's just one of those things that we can help out also, but our main priority is the administration part. Make sure that is run at all times. So,
what aspects of your job do you find most challenging?
Juggling everything. Basically, it's just juggling the work, the personnel, as well as there's a lot of events that come out throughout the day. That I have to make sure that things gets processed. I can go ahead and manage sending people in groups and to those events. For instance, we have the upcoming event for 9/11. So we're gonna be going to the schools and to recognize the 20th anniversary of the 9/11. And then at the same time, we still have other things that we need to do throughout that day. Our work schedule is still the same. It doesn't stop just because something else gets thrown up. We just need to go around it and continue doing what we need to do on a daily basis. And on a daily basis, everything's the same for our guys. It's firefighter. They check our trucks in the morning. They go and do hydrant maintenance. They go and do hose maintenance on the trucks, make sure they're running in operation. All this is done in the morning, just to take advantage of the cool air in the morning. And other than that, and then we do events. Like you said, we have a lot of events coming up, and we do it. And we just need to know how to prioritize what events to go, and so we can go, just to keep our job moving smoothly. So.
Yeah, that is a lot of juggling, especially with like all your roles as a fire chief and then the emergency responder as well. So what other aspects of your job will you find rewarding?
Well, I do fire inspections as well. Any fire inspections involves new businesses that come in that require a fire inspection. I go and do that along with the planning department. I have my roles of a fire inspector to look for. I do plan reviews, and there's a process where before a building is built, I have a say in what is supposed to be placed and what is not, what is needed and what is not needed. I have a role in that part of the project, depending on the size of the project. And then there's something that's already existing, an existing building, an existing business. They'll ask me to go and do an inspection, whether it be at the hospital or daycares or places that they have to respond to. For them to comply with their certification, they need to let us know so we can do an inspection on their businesses. We also do, like I said, we go to schools and we do fire drills for the teachers, for the schools. And I mean, it's rewarding itself because I also do foster homes. I don't do house inspections, but by all means, if anybody needs fire safety on their homes due to whatever nature, we can do that. We can, but in more intents and purposes, I do it only for foster homes. whenever a family is going to take over a child or living with a child, I need to report to the state, or they have to report to the state. So I have to come and inspect their homes to make sure everything is in order as far as for them to adopt or have kids in their homes.
For the family safety.
Yes, for the family and the child safety, correct. Correct.
Are there, I know you mentioned that there's going to be opportunities for professional development there in the future or in like a few years from now. What else how does that look like?
Well, like I said, we're small, and my aspect of how it works is I plan to grow in the department. I plan to have it grow further. Right now, I'm the only fire inspector that does inspections, but I like to eventually in the future have a fire prevention department. Fire prevention department is just basically having people working. That's all they do. They do fire inspections, they do fire investigations, anything to do with the classes, and they'll take over that. That's all their responsibility. But right now, basically it's just myself doing all that with a couple of other guys that do it as well. But we recently purchased a boat last year. So we're sending individuals to get trained in swiftwater rescue. And we do training on the river. We showed out videos. We do have a Facebook on the department. It shows videos there of them going to class and taking part in the swiftwater rescue. As a matter of fact, in this next coming month in October, I'm going to be sending 3 other gentlemen that wants to get certified in swiftwater rescue. So we're always getting advances and up. I'm looking forward to sending people to get certified in hazmat. And different other areas of not just firefighting, because basically that is the #1 job, is being a firefighter. And then from there, we just need to grow to say we can help out in different other stuff. Because being a firefighter is not just fighting fires, it's doing a lot of other stuff besides fires. Well, in that case, yes, we've had the fires along the banks, but recently we got the boat for water recovery. For the most part, as it is, but we do get called for water recoveries, or to go and search for somebody in the water. We get called out. Like I said, we purchased it last year. We barely have this going, but we used to respond anyway to the rivers before, but not on boat. Now we have the opportunity on boat, and we're getting people trained and certified to operate the boat at the same time, operate the equipment that are on the boat to rescue people in the water if it's needed as well.
That's really good. So how, with your very busy schedule, how do you usually organize your time? Do you have an agenda? Do you have somebody to help you? Do you like track it on your phone? So how is it that you organize your time?
Well, I do have an administrative assistant, which is a secretary. She receives the calls from other businesses, first of all, that need to be that need an inspection from me, or local couple of people that want to talk to me for whatever other reason. She'll schedule it out in the calendar. She does have a schedule on my calendar as far as what I have, so we just make sure I don't duplicate whatever I need. By all means, I mean I've gone cases where I've been in inspections that last me maybe not even 15 minutes and more than it lasted me an hour. So I have to organize my inspections in an hour, half an hour time frame. So I have time to go and do those time frames. But I do have a calendar on my computer that I put on my phone as well. And I get reminders that, 10 minutes beforehand or 15 minutes beforehand that I have something pending. And everything that I do have coming up, I do have it down. I also have it in my calendar in front of my desk. That does the same thing. I put everything that I need to do. I write down on my calendar, and so I can be aware of it. Because like I said, there's a lot of things that come up, and it's sometimes real hard to keep track. And that's one thing I fall back on. I fall back on the calendar, as well as my emails that I check daily. That's how I really keep going, because there's a lot of things basically on my plate that I just need to make sure I write it down. I'll be overlooking some stuff.
That's really good. So what other individuals, and I know we talked a little bit about it, how if you get calls from other cities, so it's not only working with individuals in your same occupation, right? But you interact with a whole different community or different people as well. So what are other individuals so that those students that are viewing this video can learn who else you communicate with other than your internal counterparts?
Well, we were good in working with our local police department. And that's one thing that what our department we pride of, the city is proud of, that we get along. Usually you hear larger departments or departments with always feuding firefighters and police officers. But in our case, it's totally different. We get along with each other. There's a lot of things that we do that they help us out and we help them out during, in incidents. Also, our local paramedics, the EMS, sometimes we respond to the calls before they arrive. So we're, like I said, we're part of we have several individuals, our EMTs. That's something that anybody interested in working with us is that we'll have them the opportunity to become EMTs. And it will help them a lot, not just in the standpoint of working here, but you have that in your head that you may call, your family. You can always take that experience to your family, you being a paramedic and all. So like I said, we do also get along with paramedics and EMTs because we do work with them when it comes to medical calls, vehicle accidents, and other agencies as well. Mutual aid, like we said, we communicate with other local departments, county sheriff's office. We meet with the local DPS, Border Patrol. Recently, we assisted Border Patrol in the search and rescue of some families in the area here. Excuse me. And they like I said, we help out a lot of different types of entities here within our city. Correct.
Can you describe the typical work-life balance in this field? Because I know it could be stressful at times, especially juggling a lot of work. So what do you do to balance that work life or more to not be overstressed while you're at work and be able to depart from work when you're at home?
Well, it's, I don't want to say difficult, but like I said, I'm here by 7:30 in the morning. And basically I'm here all day long. I'm here basically almost till 6 o'clock. This is my routine almost every day. 6 o'clock comes around, I wait, I go and stress out, I go and jog for a couple of miles, and before I return home. And basically once I go home, I can never turn off the phone though. I'm always there pending a call. Me and my sister, the same thing. We always pending these guys to call us up for any hour, because they do. Sometimes we've gotten calls to come and help out at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and I have to come and respond. On the weekends, though, I do have a weekend off, obviously on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Saturday and Sunday. But for the most part, I'm never without the phone. Now, if I'm going to go on vacations or something to where I'm going to be out of town, for sure, I won't take my phone with me. But other than that, if I'm just a weekend that I'm not no place to go, I'm at my home, I have my phones there. And anybody that calls me, I'll pick up. I have no problems there. I mean, I juggle a lot of stuff, and some stuff is exhausting. Some is a lot. Like I said, I like to go and walk to relieve my stress, whatever I might have picked up during the day, whatever stress out I had. I like to go burn it out that way before I go home. And once I go home, like I said, just I'm there, and the phones will never turned off. Only if I'm really out of town or something, I do turn off the phone. That's my deal.
At least you have a little downtime where
Yes.
you're able to walk.
Yes.
But it would be difficult if you get a call when you're walking. Has that ever happened to you?
Well, I don't carry the phone when I walk. So there is a period of time where I don't carry a phone, and I'm stressing. But obviously, once I get back into my truck, I usually check my phone and I realize, hey, I might have a call, and I'll return the call. That's one time. When I do walk, like I said, that's my time, and I don't carry it with me. And reality, and all intents and purposes, after hours, it's supposed to be our time. But like I said, my job it requires different than maybe other types of department heads, just because of my line of work, which is dealing with emergencies. And being also that I'm the emergency manager coordinator, whatever large events happen, I have to be the one, take an issue. I do have an assistant that does help me as well. But, like I said, if they cannot get a hold of him, they get a hold of me. It first goes that way. They go to hold of him and then they get a hold of me if they need to. So basically how that's how it works. So
what would you recommend students in high school or college to do to be able to prepare for a career in your field?
if they're seriously interested in this field, first of all, like I said, in your mind, you have to be in good shape because it is a stressful job, not only dealing with physical things that you have to be physically able to do, but mentally as well, because but believe you me, there's incidents that we've gone to, recoveries that we've gone to, that any normal individual might stress you out. Me myself, I've seen a lot of throughout my years, a lot of bad things happen. You're just gonna have to learn how to deal with it. So obviously, you want to be in a mindset, a strong mindset, and be healthy as much as you can. And just be interested, learn stuff before you go volunteer. We recently started a volunteer program. We were without a volunteer program for almost 15 years. We brought it up again. We have several individuals are volunteers. We have one female that's a volunteer as well. She comes normally during the day sometimes. But it is just another step. If this is what you want, be a volunteer, join the department, show how it is, give you a little taste of what it is. Because like I said, some people think it might not be much, or somebody you might see it as it's a lot of work, and you'll get an idea of what it is to become a firefighter, not just because it's a job or just because you hear that it's a cool job to have, or, you'll need to really look at it, and the best way of doing it is come and visit the department, check, ask our firefighters how it is, how they do work. I mean, granted, 8 to 5, our guys are always doing stuff at the department. 5 o'clock, even though they're here 24 hours, they don't go home. But after 5 o'clock is their time. Obviously, there's a call, they're going to go to that call. But that means when I say their time, that means they're going to go ahead and relax like they do at home, go to bed, or everything they do at their home, they can do it. But if there's a call, they have to respond. So the stress is you could be up 24 hours straight, depending on the types of calls you might get throughout the day. So it's a career choice that you have to think, are you one of those heavy sleepers or not? By all means, it's something that you should think about, because firefighters is, like I said, you see everything, a lot of stuff, and at all time of day. So, and all different types of weathers. We don't say we're not going because it's raining or it's whatever. It is what we're supposed to do. That is our job. That is a career. So that is the line of work here in the department. So if you're all really interested, like I said, by all means, you come by, take a gander, come and look at the guys, the way they work, and see if it's for you, it's for you. Just follow the process. And if it's not, like I said, you can always be a volunteer, but if it's not, like I said, it's not for everybody, but it's a real rewarding type of job anyway. You ain't gonna get rich, I can tell you that, but it's a real good, fulfilling type of job.
Thinking back, Mr. Muniz, on your very, very first job, how did it play a role in developing the skills that you now use? Because I know sometimes in many positions you use customer service and you could take it into different roles. So is there any skills that you learned from your very first job?
Well, my first job was with a local supermarket. I was at one time a floor manager at a certain supermarket, and so I learned how to do business, deal with business, with people, an aspect of it, deal with customers. I'm a life I've been here all my life. I lived here all my life, so people tend to know me, know my family, so they know who I am. If not, they know my family. So I'm well known in some ways to some people. But like I said, and it goes back to where I used to work at a supermarket as well. High school, I used to work at a high school, a supermarket. I worked there for 5 years at a local supermarket. I became a floor manager, and I dealt with a lot of that. I did go to college for bookkeeping, even though bookkeeping is not what I do, but I do have to balance my financials here at the fire department. I do have to deal with the budget, dealing with things that I have to repair, the costs and stuff. So in a sense, it does help me, my schooling in that sense, in administration part. So it does, what I did in the past tends to help me out in what I'm doing, even though that was not my thought then, that I was going to be going into this position, this job, but it certainly helped out.
So what do you believe is the best career decision you've ever made?
Well, applying for this job. Because I've been at it almost 24 years. So it's been good to me. And so far I'm here and I'm enjoying it. I don't see myself in other things. You know, like I said, I've already spent too much dedicated time for this position. And I'm not saying my position I'm in, but more of a firefighting position. And so to me, that's the most rewarding, that I did the right choice and I love it. I don't see myself doing any other things besides this. So it did help me out.
A lot of times it's because the passion that you have for something, it keeps you there, right?
Correct. You have to love what you're doing. If you don't like what you're doing, obviously you have to keep on looking for other things. But I've been here for 20 some years, so I certainly love it. I don't see myself in other locations, but here until I retire, basically. So I love what I do, and that's what keeps me going, and that's what keeps me getting up in the morning, coming to work, because I like to do what I do. I like to make a little difference.
So Mr. Muniz, we really appreciate you taking the time for this interview. The information you shared is truly valuable and will impact the lives of those viewing this video. For those of you that are interested in learning more about Mr. Muniz's occupation, firefighters, or any other careers, you can always log into Texas Career Check, Texas Reality Check, Career Coach, or ONET to further your research. Links to all these may be found on our website at wfsolutions.org. Thank you all for watching. Hello, everyone. We do have Mr. Fire Chief Manuel Muniz available for questions and answers. So I'm going to give you all a little bit of time to ask any questions for Mr. Muniz. For those educators, if you want to type in your students' questions on the chat or the Q&A box, you're more than welcome to do so. Mr. Chief Muniz, would you like to say hi to our attendees?
Yes, good morning, everybody. Again, this is Manuel Muniz, Fire Chief, We're going to City Fire Department. Good morning, everybody.
We do have a question on what is the process if a student is interested in job shadowing or volunteering? I know in the interview you mentioned that they would have to go in person to submit an application. Is that still possible with COVID?
Yes, you do have to get you could go online actually and research the application online if you don't want to come in person. There's 2 locations you can find, get the application. It'll be at City Hall, which will be located at our City Hall with the HR department. And you can always pick up an application there. Or you could come by here, the fire department as well. And just fill it out and you go through the process. We'll give you, we'll guide you. We'll talk to you about what is expected of you and what is the program about. So yes.
We do have a comment on the chat from Ms. Tisha. She mentions good morning and thank you for all that you do, Mr. Chief Muniz. Another question that we do have is what is the physical requirements to become a firefighter?
Yes, there you go. I think I had to come the video off. The requirements basically, like I did mention, you do have to be fit in a way. There's an obstacle course that for the process of us hiring you on, or before we send you to an academy, or before we hire you on, we need to make sure that you're fit as far as you'll be able to do your work. So the little course that we do here at the fire department, it's just a little steps of a little taste of what we do, but in a small case. Like in other words, you're gonna have to know how to climb a ladder. You have to carry a ladder, do a dummy drag, drag some hoses, chop some wood using an axe. Things that normally we do in a daily basis. That's what we do in an obstacle course in order to get you ready to see whether you'll be able to fit for this type of job. At the same time, it'll give you an idea and understanding that it is something that you can do, you're willing to do. We'll give you a little taste of that when you come in and you do an obstacle course test with us.
Chief Muniz, for your position, will you have to write grants in order to be able to buy any of the equipment, or does somebody else do that for you?
Well, before we used to do our own grants, but now the city has a company that does grants for us. And whatever grants we find that we have to go looking for grants to begin with. Whatever we look for, we'll go ahead and contact the grant writers in order to do it. Now, obviously, we have to give them information. For example, if we're looking for a certain type of equipment, we need to give them information so they can fill out it on the grant. But yes, at the beginning, we used to fill it out. We used to do ourselves. But now we've been having, we're lucky enough that we have a grant writers now to do that for us. Correct.
Mm-hmm. So writing skills is important in your field as well, because it might be maybe if they're not working for Rio Grande City or the fire department of Rio Grande City, but for a different department, correct?
That's correct.
They might have to do that as well. As a fire inspector, what are the main things to look for when you're doing a fire inspection?
Well, in my area, the fire inspection, I look for the main things. It all depends, first of all, on the type of business, because every business is different. So there's different codes for different businesses. But for the most part, I'm looking for life safety issues, anything that's related to any hazards that I might find in a particular building that needs to be corrected. I'll address it. Besides that, there's things that you need to purchase or need to have in your business, like fire extinguishers. You need to have smoke detectors, like you do in your homes. You need to have them on businesses as well. And again, everything depends on the size of the business and the type of business. Some businesses require fire alarm systems. Some businesses require sprinkler systems. And those things, depending on what type of business you have to submit plans, and I have to review those plans as well. But for the most part, that's what I do. And for new businesses I want to open up here, and for existing business, basically I just go over and do inspections, routine inspections that I do every year, and I do the same thing. And I do that for the hospitals, for clinics, for schools, daycares. I do that on a yearly basis.
We do have a question coming in from Ms. Sanchez. She's asking, so understanding fire criteria, you need to read and comprehend regulations and then apply that to the inspections.
Yes, there's a codes that the city adopts. You have to first adopt some codes in order to enforce those codes from the city, because you do have codes from the state. That is, in our case, I have NFPA standards. Those are the National Fire Protection Association. There's codes for what we use to do inspections. But if the city adopts certain codes, like we do have certain codes that city adopted years back, we follow those codes, and we have to understand those codes as far as what is needed, and we need to follow them to a T, and that's through all the businesses.
I did have a question on, like, what is the highest degree of temperature that you're able to handle wearing the suit that you all use or the equipment that you all use when putting out fires?
Well, these gears, the fire coats and pants that we use, it does protect you from the heat. and it does from the flames. I mean, but there's a certain area of range that obviously you cannot withstand. It can take you all the way to 400 or 500, 600 degrees. It all depends on how quick you're in and out of a building, whether your body can withstand it as well. Just because the gear is made to sustain you from getting burned and stuff like that, it's still you still have to go through the stress of having to deal with your surroundings if you're inside of a structure that's on fire. But the temperature, it does get extremely hot, and it all depends on the type, the size of the fire. But the most part is it gets real hard. But we do have the equipment that will help us protect. Now, as far as the visual inside a house, we do have a face piece that withstands the heat, doesn't melt, but at the same time, the visibility inside a particular burning building, it is not something that you might see. I mean, it is usually in environments real dark, smoke. You do see the glow of the heat of the fire. You don't actually see the fire depending on the size or the set of structure you're in. But it gets real hot. Yes, it does.
Do we have any other questions, Jasmine, on the chat?
As of right now, we do not.
Mhm. So just a reminder for everyone, Mr. Muniz is a fire chief, but he did start as a firefighter. So if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to ask him right now, or we can always send those questions to him if you come up with questions later on. We do have Ms. Jasmine Hernandez posted the links on the chat if you want to explore different careers such as our Mr. Fire or firefighters careers through Career Coach, Texas Career Check, Texas Reality Check, or Own It. And all these things can be found through our website. For those educators, if you want access to the videos, just a reminder, they're going to be posted on the employer interview library. And for those that do not have access, we're going to be able to provide you access if you request it through us. Just send us an email if possible. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Muniz, for attending our conference today, and we really appreciate everything that you do.
Oh, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So our next session will begin shortly, and it will be with a licensed chemical dependency counselor. For our next employer video interview, we do have Mr. Ramiro Cruz. He's a licensed chemical dependency counselor and works with Tropical Texas Behavioral Health. Mr. Ramiro Cruz has been working for Tropical Texas as of 2015. He's currently working as a licensed chemical dependency counselor with adults and youth. He counsels individuals and families to address issues with substance and alcohol use during individual, group, and family sessions. Additionally, he assists individuals and families to re-engage in integrated services and apply crisis intervention strategies. He implements the DSM-5 and ASAM for diagnostic criteria to determine appropriate assessments and measurements to diagnose for substance use disorder. He currently holds a master's in clinical mental health counseling and an LCDC and a bachelor's in rehabilitation services and with a concentration in addiction studies. Hi, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Mesa, and I'm a workforce outreach specialist with Workforce Solutions. Today we have with us, we have a very special guest from the health industry field who will be giving us some information on his profession. Mr. Ramiro Cruz, can you please introduce yourself, your job title, and where you currently work?
Yes, hello, my name is Ramiro Cruz. I currently work at Tropical Texas Behavioral Health, an LCDC, which is a licensed chemical dependency counselor there. And I currently work with populations, adolescents 13 through 17, and then adults 18 and up. And so the program is called TRA-TRY, which just means treatment for adults and treatment for youth.
Can you now tell us how you became interested in your profession?
So I've always, so in my bachelor's program, I've always had an interest to learn about substance use and how to help people in that population who struggle with substance and alcohol use. And that's where it started off. So I started taking courses. I did some I guess, major changes, like as far as like majors and minors in that bachelor's program. And so I found the rehabilitation services with a concentration in addiction bachelor's. And so that's what I ended up doing. And then, so I started really getting interested in the courses as well. And then I was hoping to learn the material to be able to apply it later on, like at a career. And eventually I did become employed at Tropical as a case manager, initially to help adults who were struggling with a substance or alcohol use in 2015 of October. So I've already been working with Tropical. It'll be 6 years this October 5th. So I was working as a case manager for helping people who struggle with drugs and alcohol for 5 years. And it'll be a year right now in October 5th that have been working as an LCDC for Tropical as well.
Well, congratulations on your certification, Ramiro. I know that we work together as case managers, and I know a lot of people are not too familiar with Tropical Texas Behavioral Health. Can you give a little bit of insight of what Tropical Texas is?
Yeah, so Tropical Texas Behavioral Health is an agency that's self-funded. So we're a nonprofit, and we have several integrated services, and we help individuals, youth, children, families. So for adults, we see individuals who are diagnosed with a mental health diagnosis of depression, bipolar, schizoaffective, schizophrenia. And so we have different level of care depending on the severity of the diagnosis and how manageable or non-manageable it's become for the person, the family, or the youth. So I guess our lowest level of care would be LOC1, where a person is seen, they're updated like once every 2 months, and they need like lesser case management services, which means that they see a caseworker less frequently. And then level of care 2 is where they have a counselor. The only criteria for a level of 2 is that they have to have a diagnosis of major depression, and they might be seen bi-weekly on a weekly frequency. And then LOC3 is where an individual hasn't been able to manage a diagnosis for different factors like homelessness, health issues, maybe discord in the family, homelessness, or so sometimes it's been so hard and overwhelming to manage these different factors that they constantly go into crisis. And so they need more frequent of helping meet their needs, whether it be with primary care, counseling in the community, or assistance with maybe obtaining food, or even to seeing if they qualify for our housing program within our Tropical Texas Behavioral Health housing assistance program, or even employment services as well, if that's something that they're able and ready to get working on. And then of course we have the substance use services as well. What I used to do before, the case management. So case managers that do case management for drugs and alcohol can see level of cares 1, 2, and 3. But then there's also outpatient, which is counseling within Tropical. That's called substance use outpatient. And then so usually like the length of outpatient counseling is for 3 months, and it consists of groups, and weekly individual sessions. And so there's a lot of integrated care because there's, like I mentioned, primary care, there's psychiatrists, there's crisis, there's IDD, which is intellectual developmental disabilities, there's youth, there's family services, and there's adults. There's also veteran services. Before COVID, we were able to have adults come in to the drop-in center where it gave people who maybe weren't experiencing out there in the community or with family, like opportunities to socialize and develop those skills. So they were able to come in before COVID to the drop-in center. And so people who had a similar situation and different diagnoses were able to interact with each other, learn social skills, learn self-sufficient skills to help them like just be able to become self-sufficient also as well on the outside in the community and be able to, you know, pay bills on time, just be mindful of cleaning up after themselves and how to keep a running home and pay the rent, light, water, and yeah, and just have an opportunity to socialize as well.
Thank you for that information, Ramiro. What about the education or training and background that your occupation requires as a licensed chemical dependency counselor?
So my route that I took, because so there's two different routes, and the route that I did to get my LCDC was that I had already had an interest for the field of I guess addiction counseling and addiction services to the population of adults and youth. So my way was getting those courses down in my major of rehabilitator services with a concentration in addiction. So I completed those courses, but for a person who maybe didn't complete a bachelor's, so I want to say that the highest degree that they must have is an associate. But because they're not continuing with a bachelor's, then they would have to complete like supervision under an LCDC 4,000 hours. So if you were to get your bachelor's with those addiction courses, then it would be just as if you have to have done those 4,000 supervised hours. So you could go either route. For me, it was doing those courses in a bachelor's program. So then once I had those hours down of courses, I was able to apply and get my LCBCI. And then afterwards, I got my master's in clinical mental health counseling. And because I got my master's, I was able to test out. And so when I tested out, I eventually got through mail my LCBC, my full license. And then I was able to just move up the ladder that way. Because I did start off as an LCBCI and then an LCDC like a couple of months later, once I passed the exam.
So what skills, abilities, and personal attributes are essential to succeed in your job or in this field?
So you really, have to be open to just the population, not just looking at non-compliance or why they aren't doing something, but rather looking at what are the barriers and helping them overcome those barriers. So again, trying to meet their needs. Is it unemployment? Is it homelessness? Is it maybe a health issue that maybe we can help them get an appointment for, to get seen for, or refer them to those services? And like I mentioned, also there's housing assistance that they have to meet requirements for it, like wanting to work. So we can help them, but then also there's some steps that they need to take to also show that they're willing to, overcome those barriers as well. And you have to be a good active listener. So listening to what they say and show that you're listening to what they're saying. So not just verbally and being able to reflect that back when you're talking to them, but then also like non-verbally, like your posture says a lot. So a lot of active listening skills, and also like patience, because there's so many barriers and struggles that you experience. So also remembering to also apply self-care in your own time, and being able to express just that you do want to help meet their needs. And so a lot of active listening skills.
Can you describe what a typical workday looks like for you?
Yeah, so a typical workday looks like for me, so say a Friday, right? I'll look at what my next week looks like, and that way I already know what to expect Monday morning, right? And I try to be prepared just that Friday, like, okay, do I have to get anything ready for the next week? Because I already have individuals, I already have intakes, I already have groups scheduled for the following week, and I just need to make sure the Friday of the week before that I'm ready and organized for those coming days. Because the thing is that spontaneous things happen, so you can be as ready as you want to, but something's going to happen that might throw your schedule out, so you need to be ready also for that. So just try to be as organized as you can, but of course there's spontaneous things that are going to happen. So usually Tuesdays and Thursdays we have groups for adults for outpatient counseling. We have it from 5 to 6. No, sorry, we have from 1:30 to 3:30 on Tuesdays and Thursdays for adults. And then for youth, we have groups Mondays and Fridays from 1:30 to 3:30. And then so the rest of the time it'll be individuals and intakes that'll be scheduled throughout the day. And just being kind of pre-informed of the intakes, especially because you don't want the individual to feel like that they're having to repeat some stuff they've already reported. So just trying to get informed as much as you can about the intakes.
What are some of the daily decisions you make? I know you mentioned that you have to be organized, but what other decisions do you have to take in order to do your job effectively?
Mm-hmm. So decisions that I of course I make them together with the client. As far as like scheduling appointments, like what works for them. I know that a lot of adults or even kids now, they have they're going to school or they're working full time. So I try to accommodate with them like a time that's going to work for them, a day and time, and then I'll flex it another day. But I try to accommodate their day and time that they're available, so that way we can do the intake, especially, or those individuals to meet their needs of counseling, right? Then other decisions that we do because as an LCDC, we have to provide a diagnosis for the client. So we have to make a decision depending on what they report and just express, that trying to be as honest. We try not to say that judgingly, so we just say like, it's going to help you just being as honest as we can. At the end of the day, this is what we're trying to help you, so it would serve benefit that they be as honest as they can, right, in reporting. And from that, we come up with a diagnosis, whether it'd be stimulant use, alcohol use, marijuana, cannabis use, even maybe methamphetamine use. So there's a lot of diagnosis, and depending on the symptoms that they say yes or no to that they experience, for example, like their frequency of use, how often are they using and how much of it. So that'll be one symptom. And then do they feel that their use is interfering with their employment? Do they feel that it's interfering with school if they're attending school? Or do they feel that it causes conflict within the family? Do they feel that they think that they're going to use an amount, and that by the time they know it, they use an increased amount? Like say they were going to drink, they were planning on drinking 1 or 2 beers in the weekend, and by the time they knew it, they had drank like a 6 or a 12, So all that, we put it together, and depending on the amount of yeses that they say, that's where we'll be able to identify if it's a mild, a moderate, or a severe diagnosis, depending on the amount of yeses.
I mean, and I know there's a big book of diagnoses. What is that book called? Because there's tons of diagnoses where individuals can be diagnosed for. Do you recall the name of that book?
Yes, so we call it like short-term word DSM-5, the DSM-5, and so we constantly use it, especially for the LCDCs. We constantly, even like it's hard to memorize everything in it, so we do have to look back at it and always have it at hand. So it's also very important to carry it with you if you are going to go to the office. Right now, a lot of us are working from home, but at least two of the days we do go to office, and so carry it with you, have it with you, and of course, there's also the mental health diagnosis.
What aspects of your job do you find most challenging or rewarding?
Most challenging? Most challenging is when you hear, different types of abuse that is happening, and that you need to make a report, right, to adult protective services or to child protective services. That is a challenging decision, but the one that you should make by by law, that you have to report any type of abuse. So that does become challenging only because you wanna help the family, but if you hear that that's happening, you have to report it, and that becomes challenging only because you feel like you're dividing a family, or there's a potential for that to happen, but you feel that if it is happening, that it does sometimes become necessary, especially in substance use, because if an adult is using and they have the child, or you find out that they have the child, you need to make that report. So that can be a little bit challenging because it might feel like that you're working against them, but of course you're gonna make sure that the adult or the youth is being protected by calling CPS or ATS.
And what is more rewarding?
Rewarding. So I feel like most rewarding when you hear that person where they feel like that the skills are working, that they say that they have experienced sobriety, or that they've had such long time using, like 15 and 25 years, and this is the first time that they've been able to be sober for a day, for a week. And when you hear like months, then that's really rewarding because you know that you've helped this person, make some changes. And of course, a lot of the change comes from them, but you provide like the toolbox that they need to be able to build on those skills and let them know as long as you continue practicing, like eventually it becomes a habit as well, because substance use or alcohol use has become that a habit and eventually an addiction. And then it gets something to the point where it's hard to turn that back around because now the body is asking for it, whether you want to quit. Sometimes they have to go through a process of like detox and rehab just to be monitored on their withdrawals because some of them can be life-threatening. And then they gradually start picking up like healthier habits, the skills that we were talking about, that toolbox. And with time, as they continue practicing, the body starts realizing what it's like to be sober, and it starts feeling good applying these healthier habits because they know that in the long run, it's better to apply the healthier ones and that they give themselves that opportunity to be sober. Another thing that I tell them. Mm-hmm.
Would you be able to give us an example of some of the skills that you use with your patients, with your clients that you see?
Mm-hmm. So, of course, a lot of the skills that I use is when they're, for example, they're telling me, they're telling me what they're going through. And so they say, but I would still like to be able to, work things out with my family or become employed, or they would like to see themselves have a better health. And then I ask them, so how would it look like for you to be able to reach that? And it kind of gets them thinking of some of the changes that they need to make. So kind of like that probing and that reflective questioning. And then of course, I mentioned earlier the active listening skills. So just listening to them. In counseling, you want them to be the ones mostly talking because you also don't want to overwork yourself and let them, do the work mostly. You don't want to be a problem solver for them because they have it within them to solve it. It's just hard for them to see unless you reflect it back to them verbally, like, well, how would things look like for you to, improve your health? And then they start saying, well, I know I have to make an appointment. And so you help them, okay, well, have you looked into, or do you need help with that referral? Or like they say, well, I would like to reduce disputes in the family. And then so what's one common thing that you all argue about? And usually it's like the substance use, and so different things, employment, right? So if they want to work on employment, so what are some of the things that are keeping you back? Well, maybe they say testing positive, right? So then they want to work on reducing to eventually be able to sustain enough to come out negative, right? And then get that employment job.
Really good. I know for a lot of the clients and patients, they have set goals. And if they don't have one, you all try to find even the smallest goal possible for them to be able to look forward to it and be able to work towards it. So that's something else that you all do. Am I correct, Ramiro?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So sometimes it's hard for them to think of like, well, I don't have a goal, or I don't know. And then I'll kind of like reflect back on what they said they wanted to work on. Like I was mentioning earlier, where I would like to, see my health get better. And so, okay, so so as small as a goal as it may be, like, okay, well, that goal would be like to make that first appointment, right? And then maybe for the next 30 days, right? Make that, or no, maybe like the week, right? Make your primary care appointment within the week. And then, so then once the week comes, will be like revisited, right? And see if they made that appointment. If not, we'll help them there and then reach out to that primary care of choice together. First, you want to let them do it on their own. But if they still haven't done it within the week, then help them do that. Yeah. Yeah. So they can be as small as that. And yeah.
So how does success look like in this position, and how do you measure it?
Mm-hmm. So as far as our program, because it is the treatment program is for 90 days. So for us, a successful discharge is their completion of services where they've experienced some progress, whether it's reducing, right? Because we don't expect them to quit from one day to the next, especially for people who use every day, right? So, and we let them know, that relapses sometimes do happen, but we learn from that experience what went wrong. So if they're able to show that progress of, okay, like I'm gonna pick myself up and identify what went wrong, and then I'm gonna do things differently. So if we see them acting, doing those active different things, reducing, if we see that they don't drop out and we don't hear from them within the 30 days. So if we don't hear from them for like 30 days, then that's when we would unsuccessfully discharge. But as long as they're completing the program the 90 days, if they're having any kind of progress, reducing, if they're able to abstain, that's really great. But like I said, there's usually relapses that do happen. And then at the end of the 90 days, if we feel a need that they would still benefit for maybe 45 more days, especially for those that have been successfully reducing, just to give them a greater chance at more successful in their sobriety, maybe reduce a little bit more. And so we do staff those cases with our supervisor to maybe request that extension of services.
Do you more often work individually or with a team?
So I do work with the team. We help out each other because sometimes, like I mentioned, things happen randomly. So we try to help out each other. Hey, like, can you take this intake, or can you have an individual? I was supposed to do it, and then we try to exchange. You do my individual, I do yours. Teamwork, or also, especially for new employees who are coming into our position, we try to give our 1-2 suggestions of what works for us, and hopefully they pick up along the way like what's going to work for them at the end of hearing all the feedback, right? And then also, of course, staffing with our supervisor, helping each other become informed of the latest trends, especially among the youth. There's some substances out there like K2 and spice that are changing, and so we just become informed also of those. And so also trainings, like potential trainings for more growth amongst ourselves, like just to continue increasing our experience in this, with the populations and the substance use and alcohol use trends.
How do you typically organize your time? Because I know you had mentioned that you, on a Friday, you tend to work for the next week and try to schedule your time and see how your week's going to end up. But that doesn't always work in this job, right? So how will you be able, or how do you organize your time, like other than using agendas? And I know you use a scheduler at Tropical, but there's different modes of organizing your time. How do you do that?
So I do use a planner, and I leave it. So like for individuals, usually it's like an hour each individual. So if I have something afterwards, like an individual or even an intake, I make sure that I have like a 30-minute gap in case anything happens. I can follow up really quickly with someone else. I can finish my documentation, or I can get a little bit ready, like at least 15 minutes before the next one, just to get ready, right? And make sure that I have everything down, information. And then, so we use a scheduler. So that way we enter our appointments and we don't get like double booked or anything like that, because we schedule our sessions, but then also, or intakes and groups, but then also clerks, as they have people coming in and referrals, they schedule as well. So we need to make sure that we have ours in there. If not, we're going to be double booked, and it's going to be even harder to catch up. And of course, I'm on the computer by 8. I make sure I have a good night's rest so I can just be ready for every day. And So it's very important that time management, and just that you don't leave anything behind, that you just complete it there and then. Because if not, like by the end of the day, you're going to have a note due. So you want to work on them in that 30-minute gap between each session. Yeah, so that way you won't be stuck like a whole morning, like doing documentation when you have an upcoming appointment.
That reminds me a lot, Ramiro, of documentation is extremely important in that job. So let's talk a little bit more, or give the students a little bit more information on documentation, because I know it is very vital to be able to put the correct information on there. And sometimes if you lose track of time, we might not be able to get the right information. So do you want to clarify a little bit more on the documentation?
Yeah, so documentation is very important. So if you don't document it, if it's not written down, it never happens. So you need to document it. Anything, someone called you about something that happened, or a complaint, or PO or CPS or anything like it, you need to document it. If not, it never happened. So for our individuals and intakes, you need to really be focused on being able to get some key points down, like how is the person, what are they saying? Like if they're saying that they're struggling with symptoms, well, what kind of symptoms are they? Is it an increase in depression, and how frequent and often is that happening? Or anger outbursts, or anxiety, maybe even hallucinations for people who do have a diagnosis of schizophrenia, and how frequent is that happening? And so you want to have that documentation correct. So, and then in substance use as well, when you get down like what substances or alcohol they're struggling with, you want to document really well. So how often is this substance or alcohol use happening? Is it daily, weekly? And then especially what is the amount? Because if they say, oh, one beer every day, and you might be thinking, oh, maybe it's like a 12 ounce, but you want to make sure what ounce it is. Maybe it's a 25 ounce. So that's like 2 beers, but it's one tall beer, so you want to make sure that you ask those accurate questions of what is the actual amount. And it's also, especially like the marijuana use, the other substance uses as well. So frequency, and then how long have they been doing this for? You want to document like that they've maybe been using daily for the past 6 months, 12 months, or even years. And so that helps you also recommend if they would benefit from detox, because it's going to be a little bit harder for them to be able to reduce. And maybe with detox under monitored withdrawals, they can complete that. And then also the progress, where are they at in their current substance or alcohol use? So you want to be able to document like where they're at right now. And as time goes by, your individuals will it should be changing, right? So it should be changing the progress. But if they're in a stagnant progress, like where you don't see any change, like either they're not reducing, then you want to revisit those goals in the treatment plan of like, well, obviously something isn't working in their goals, so what can we change, right? Or their objectives aren't working, so you want to revisit with the client those and go over it and see what do they feel is not working for them and change that. So the progress is really important as well. And then of course, like your upcoming appointments, you want to document them on there, put them in the scheduler, so that way when they're seeing other health professionals, they know that you're scheduled, and then again, there's not that clash of time. Yeah, so documentation is very important.
I know you work with different individuals. So what other individuals other than your team, the ones that have the same occupation as you do you interact with on a daily basis or any time at a given point at work?
Yes, so especially because the population that I work with is substance and alcohol use, individuals who struggle with those, they sometimes most likely will be in mental health services along with tropical, because we do have different integrated services. So if they miss an appointment, we try to get with the caseworker or with the clerk for that area and just let them know that you're on the call with the person and that they would like to reschedule there and then. So we try to assist that way, the person, because at the end of the day, we're trying to help meet their needs. And sometimes it's not just the substance and alcohol use counseling, but then also like primary care, mental health, or even they're individuals with a caseworker where they're helping them get the housing, the employment, or skills, right? Developing those social skills or those self-sufficient skills as well. So that's when we have a lot of interactions with clerks, with caseworkers, with supervisors as well, when we need to bring up an issue, or maybe say a caseworker has been out and the client didn't even know. So then the supervisor puts in another caseworker to follow up, and they just kind of thank you for letting them know that they've been missing out on those appointments as well. And then with our own supervisor, we need to staff our recommendations when we're going to discharge. Was it a successful or not successful, and why was that? So we have to do also a lot of justification in our documentation when we're given a diagnosis for substance or alcohol use, but then also when we're not giving one. And then when we're doing a referral, we also have to document that as well, because we are showing that we're trying to help this person meet their needs.
Well, Mr. Ramiro Cruz, thank you again for taking the time for this interview. The information that you shared with us today is truly valuable and will impact the lives of those watching this video. For those of you that are watching, if you're interested in learning more about a licensed chemical dependency counselor or any other careers, we encourage you to explore Texas Reality Check, Texas Career Check, Career Coach, and ONET to further your research. Links to all these may be found on our website at wfsolutions.org. Thank you. Mr. Cruz was unable to join us today for our youth conference, so we're going to go ahead and transition over to our next video. So any questions that you might have for Mr. Cruz, they're going to be, we're going to go ahead and share them with him. So our next employer video interview is with Mr. Josue Llanas. Mr. Josue Llanas is an electrical engineer by trade who graduated from the University of Texas Pan America, now UTRGV. In 2016, he moved to Houston to inspect pipelines as an engineer, and through traveling through the US, he discovered Bigger Pockets podcast. He started his LLC in October of 2017, and through persistence, completed his first wholesale deal in April of 2018, which led him to begin his journey into real estate investing that has led him to different investment methods, such as wholesaling, wholetailing, net listings, novation agreements, sub-2 transactions, fix and flips, rentals, etc. This gave him a full range of tools that he has used to help homeowners when he connects with them through marketing efforts. In March of 2021, he successfully wholesaled a 15-unit condo portfolio in the Heights with two other partners for $500,000. Just give us a moment. We are having technical difficulties with the video.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jasmine Hernandez, and I'm a workforce outreach specialist with Workforce Solutions. Today with us, we have a very special guest who's going to be giving us some information on his profession. Mr. Llanas, can you please introduce yourself, your job title, and where you currently work?
Yeah, so my name is Josue Llanas. I am the founder of Texas Homes REI. We are a real estate company based out of Houston, Texas. We specialize in finding off-market opportunities, and we sell them to investors, or we buy the properties ourselves to either fix and flip them, buy them, hold them, keep them as rentals, owner finance, Airbnbs. We're going on a lot of different scenarios now that we'll get to talk about here pretty soon. I'm an engineer by trade, so I actually attended the University of Texas Pan American. It's UTRGV now. I got a bachelor's in electrical engineering, so I'm an electrical engineer by trade. That's just a little bit about me.
How did you become interested in owning your own business?
So it all started with one book. It started with Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. So for anyone that's listening, it's $5 on Amazon. This book will change your life. It will open your eyes to a world that you may have never even known existed. And so just understanding how the monetary system works and how really all of reality works in the US and really in the world capitalism, you'll have a better understanding that owning your own business is probably the best decision you can make for yourself in terms of a financial component.
How did you come up with the concept of your business?
Well, I used to work in oil and gas. So I did oil and gas from 2014 when I got out of college to about 2017, more or less. And throughout driving through all of the United States, I have a CDL. So I used to travel to a location out in North Dakota. I would drive for about 3 hours, 3 days straight, 18 hours a day driving. And through all these drives in an 18-wheeler with all of my equipment as an engineer, I started reading into real estate, and I started really diving deep into it. And I found out that the lowest barrier of entry into real estate is something called wholesaling. So in wholesaling, what you do is you find a property off market. And let's say you find a property for $100,000. Let's say this house is worth maybe $200,000. Well, then you can buy it. You can find the property at $100,000. You put it under contract and you sell it to an investor for more money, and you keep the spread in between. So you can sell it for 110, you can sell it for 120. Really, it boils down to your negotiating skills to determine how much money you're really going to make per transaction.
So for us that do not know what off market means, what is off market?
That's a great question. So off market is anything that's not on the multiple listing services. So typically the way that real estate works is every single property is listed on the MLS with an agent. So normally there's a seller and there's a buyer, and then the seller has an agent in between. The buyer has an agent in between. So these guys talk, they negotiate, they come to an agreement, and then the transaction happens, right? Well, in an off-market transaction, you scratch the seller's agent, you scratch the buyer's agent, and now it's just me talking directly with the homeowner of the property. So it's a very simple transaction in terms of there not being any professionalism involved between myself and the homeowner. And I'm able to negotiate a better rate for me because there's no agents involved. And so we don't have to pay any agents. In essence, it's a better deal for me at the end of the day. And also for the seller, it make the process extremely simple for them. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, so you just cut off the middleman.
We cut off the middleman, number one, but number two, we go direct to seller. And there's also being on market means that there's multiple buyers going after one single property or after one single seller. And in my situation, typically, if it's not a crazy market, I can talk directly to a homeowner where there's no other competition involved. So I don't have to compete, right? It's only just me and the seller and then what we can agree on, right? And if it works for them and it works for us, then we get it under contract and we do a deal. It's a lot easier.
What type of education, training, or background does your job require?
I would say that there's no formal education required at all. I think It's all personal education. Now, that's not to say that I haven't invested heavily in my education. At this point, I've probably spent over $50,000 out of my own pocket, paying other mentors, paying business coaches, paying consultants to learn different things about the business. So I would say that the education that is required it should start from books, really, and it's a very low investment, right? And when people say, you know, can books make you rich? Yeah, they will make you rich if you know the right books to read, right? Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, The Richest Man in Babylon, How to Invest in Money with No Money Down by Brandon Turner. Look up Brandon Turner on Google. He's got a ton of books. They're all great knowledge, and you can learn a whole lot just from reading all these books. And from all this knowledge, as long as you go out and you apply it and you put it into action, you will make a lot of money, right? Once you start making money, then you pay other people that have already done what you want to do to teach you or to carve out the path or to lay the path for you to get from point A to point B. So in business, it's all about paying other people for their value and the value that they can provide for you and your business. So I would say you do, at some point you are going to need education, but it's more so education from seeking the education from a person that's already at the position that you want to be at.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
What skills, abilities, and personal attributes are essential to being successful in your job? And I'm talking more about like soft skills. Like, should you be really good with interpersonal skills, time management skills, things like that?
I would say the number one skill, but I'm going to be a little bold here and say that in all business, the number one skill is confidence. And what I mean by that is confidence in yourself, confidence that you can figure out any problem that is facing you. In business, I have found out that it's fear that holds us back, and really in life. And the way that I like to imagine fear is picture being out in the desert, right? And picture seeing a white wall as high as you can see. This wall goes infinitely up. This wall goes infinitely down. This wall goes infinitely to the right and infinitely to the left. And there's no way to get through the wall. Everything that you want is on the other side on that wall, right? And the only way to get through it is to run as fast as you can and just run through that wall. Every time that I've ran through that wall, I've noticed that when I look back, that wall was paper thin. Sometimes we see the wall and it feels like it's made out of concrete or made out of steel and that we can't go through it. But when you look back in retrospect and you see the situation, it doesn't matter if it's something as simple as picking up the phone to make a call to see if, you know, someone's selling their property. I was terrified when I first started. You know, now I'll do it on the fly. Now I'll sign a contract without even double checking. I trust my team to know that they're going to do the right call. I'll sign on a document without even thinking twice about it because I know that I can figure out any sort of problem that may arise. So I'll say the number one skill or really attribute or personality trait that you need is confidence in yourself. And I think that can very much be developed by reading a lot of books. You know, the books that I mentioned already will set you light years ahead of everyone else. But a lot of people don't want to sit down and just read the books. When you realize that these books can change your lives, you'll sit down and you'll read them. I guarantee it. Yeah.
What does your typical day look like?
So my typical day looks, I wake up in the morning, I exercise for at least 45 minutes. I like to bike ride. There's some bike trails around where I'm at right now. I'm in Cypress. So there's a 100-acre wooded preserve. I like to go bike riding, clear my head, get some really fresh air out in the woods. I come back, I shower, we eat breakfast, and then we have a daily huddle with my team. The daily huddle, we talk about the deals that we have. Right now, we have about 10 deals on the board. We have one deal that just closed yesterday on Monday. We have 3 deals pending to close in the next couple of days. And we have about 5 other deals that we have marketing looking for a buyer. So then as soon as we're done with our daily huddle, we'll go right into it and just start making calls. What I tell my team is, if you're not on the phone, you're not making money. In business, if you're not communicating with someone or selling your product or service, you're not making any money. So I've trained them to always be constantly like on the lookout for, okay, what's the next opportunity? Who do I need to talk to? What do I need to do to get this deal sold? So most of the day spent on the phone, and then at the end of the day, another gym workout, shower, come back, I read. I like to read at least 10 pages a day. I try to, you know, if not, I make sure that I read as much as possible throughout the week. That's my typical day.
And what are the responsibilities as a founder of your business?
So I own the company, right? So the responsibilities all lie on me, and there's a deep sense of urgency to drive revenue for my team because other people depend on me. Not only do I have people that work with me here in town, but also have people that work with me overseas. I have employees in Colombia. I have employees in the Philippines, and their livelihood really depends on the success of my business. So it's almost a question of making sure that I drive revenue so that their families are fed, right? I know that I can drive revenue for myself, but now it's more so a sense of urgency for their families. So as responsibilities, I would say it's more so for my team. I do everything for them at this point to make sure that everyone is paid. Responsibilities to make sure that the deals get done. Responsibilities with the title companies, maybe any conversation I need to have with agents or attorneys or contractors. I need to be on top of everyone, making sure that everything's running smoothly.
So in your position, you do not work only with your team. So then you do work with outside people, like you stated, attorneys. Do you have like an accountant that you work with as well and things like that?
Absolutely. The biggest mistake that I did, in my opinion, in my second year of business is not hiring a full-time bookkeeper. The numbers don't lie, and they are the best way to gauge the success of your business. Had I started, tracking a P&L from the very beginning, I would have known where my cash flow is at, my projections for the next 3 months, how much cash do I have to survive for the next, 3, 6, 9, 12 months. And having a deep knowledge of your books is essential for business. But yeah, so I need to talk to my CPA. I need to talk to my attorneys anytime that I have maybe a document that I need them to draft up. Contractors, I'm talking to contractors all the time, making sure that they're going out to the properties, doing the job that they're supposed to. I need to talk to agents to see maybe if they have any other properties, and also other business owners. A lot of people think or have a mindset of competition, or I like to think it's a scarcity mindset, and I don't think there's scarcity in this world. I think there's an abundance of opportunities in this world. Just in Houston alone, there's over 1 million properties here. Just in Houston alone, there's over, the last I checked, like over $150 million worth of volume per month. And if you're able to capture just 1% of that, that's over $150,000 per month that you can make just for you. Imagine everyone else around here. There's so much abundance. And so the way that I like to think about most of my best friends are business owners that do exactly what I do. And I collaborate with them all the time, and we all have an abundance mindset, and we all help each other out. We give each other resources. We give each other tips, tricks. We share the good people to talk to, what's helping us improve, what's helping us get better, and what's helping us in our business. So we very much have a collaboration mindset and an abundance mindset. And I think that's crucial for business for sure. And really for life. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your work when it comes to a recent project that you've done?
So just a quick rundown. I found this property through cold calling. I cold call mainly as my marketing source for finding new leads. So I found this guy. He's an old man. He owns a property. It's completely run down. He only wanted $20,000. The tax appraised value of that house was $60,000. And I noticed that houses that were completely renovating were selling for around anywhere between $130,000 to $170,000. He wants only $20,000, so I know it's a no-brainer. So what I did is I got it under contract for 20. I sold it to my other company for 40. And then I'm putting around 45 into it. So I'm going to be all in around 90 with closing costs. I bought the house, by the way, using none of my own money. I have a lender that gave me 100% financing on the deal. So I have zero money on the deal. Actually, I got paid $20,000 to buy the house that I now own.
But I'm going to pause you right there. Was it because you have good credit? Is that something that people need to know?
No, it's not because I have good credit. It's because I found a great deal on a property. I mean, I have great credit. You know, my credit's fantastic, actually. But it's not a necessity to buy houses. Not at all. If you do it off market, you don't need it whatsoever. So yeah, so I bought it. And then I am going to refinance out of it, and I'm probably going to pull out some more cash, tax-free cash, that I'm not going to pay taxes on after that. I'm planning on creating an Airbnb with that property because it's pretty close to the water. So my plan is to have it a fisherman's camp with, you know, like some area for descaling the fish, a grill in the back. And I have just, I hired an interior designer also. She's been a lot of help to bring the project together. And also my contractor is bringing the project together. So just to like mention a couple of the people on the team that I wouldn't be able to do with this without. Number one, I have a lender that financed the entire transaction. Number two, I should start off. I have the co-caller that found the deal, my title company that closed the deal for me, my lender that also is getting paid heavily and really, really well on the transaction. My interior designer is getting paid, my contractor is getting paid, and all of the people that work for the contractor. So from my one decision to buy this property, about 5 to 7 people get paid on one single transaction because of me finding an off-market opportunity. So it's very much an economy, a self-driven economy that I don't have to worry about who's in the White House. I don't have to worry about government. I don't have to worry about the jobs, you know, like the job market. I don't have to worry about the stocks. I don't have to worry about the S&P 500. As long as I can keep finding off-market opportunities from homeowners, I know that I'm going to be fine. And there's always going to be people in distress, people that maybe are going through a divorce, maybe lost a loved one to, you know, and then now they inherited a house, or maybe they owe a bunch of taxes, or maybe they have an IRS lien. I mean, I can go on and on forever, right? There's so many reasons why someone might need to sell a property quickly for a discount, and, you know, and I make it very convenient for them.
What do you find the most challenging and the most rewarding about your job?
The most challenging part, I would say, is finding new leads, finding new deals. Even though there's an abundance of them, you know, there's always, we're dealing with time windows for people that want to sell their property. And if we don't catch them right then and there, the time window may expire. And by what I mean by that is maybe a seller changes their mind and that doesn't want to sell the property anymore. So all that money that you just spent into marketing is suddenly all lost. I would say that the most rewarding part about what I do is closing the deal. I've helped a lot of people go through some really tough situations, and I can, you know, just right off the top of the head, there's been like a handful of people that after we close the deal, they thank me and they tell me, thank you so much. One guy told me, if you wouldn't come here and you wouldn't have bought my house, I would have killed my brother-in-law. And I said, whoa, hold on just a second. And he said, I'm very serious. I had so much hate for him, but you came, you calmed me down, you calmed down the situation. And I can't believe that like this is happening. Like I probably would be in jail because if it wasn't for you, you know? And so I think you're an angel. He told me that. He told me, I think God sent you, and I think that you're an angel sent from God. And I think that's probably the most rewarding thing for me, is knowing that I can make money and also help people, right? I'm not screwing anyone over. I'm helping people. They're feeling great. I'm making great money. And every single person that I help ends up feeling just very satisfied with the service that I can provide. That's definitely the most rewarding part of my job.
How do you advertise your business?
So there's a lot of ways that I advertise my business. Email marketing is one of them. I send out an email campaign. As a matter of fact, I'm going to have links on my Instagram profile if you want to join my newsletter. Instagram is one of the ways that I advertise my business a lot. I post all the deals that I have on there. I post any new stories that I have, anything and everything, any tips or lessons learned, I post on my Instagram. So make sure anyone watching this, if you'd like to follow me in my journey, it's at Josue Llanas with 2 S's at the end. So at JOSUE LLANASS, and should come up. Follow me, send me a direct message. I want to know anyone that follows me or has any questions. I'm always very open to helping out in any way that I can. A lot of people have helped me out in my journey, so I feel it's my responsibility to help others get to my level. So anything that I can do to help. But yeah, social media, and then I'd say social media is probably the best way to advertise my profile now. My business, I advertise on Facebook ads a lot also. Just, you know, new agents or everyone's on social media. So I feel like it's ridiculous to not advertise on social media. Everyone, you know, is able to find you. They're able to see your business. They're able to see what you do. And if they like you, they can reach out and maybe we can do business together. For anyone watching, you know, I'd say social media is a very powerful tool, and everyone is glued to their phones 24/7, right? So it makes sense to advertise on the platform where everyone's eyes are at. Social media is the best tool, in my opinion.
How do you rate success, or how do you measure success in your position?
I read the question, you know, when you send me the list, and at first I thought about revenue, you know, and I think you can't take your eye off revenue. It's so important to growth and to the success of your business, to the success of your family, to the success of your team. But I think there's also, you know, a measure of how many people I can impact. You know, I would measure success as how many people I can impact. And I mean that by the people that I can buy houses from. I mean that by people that I can help find deals and make money on their own. I have a goal this year to help 10 people get their first deal. So I would measure my success at the end of the year by how many people I helped get their first deal. How many people did I show this little known, I would even say a secret, everyone knows it in my world, this little known, you know, world of real estate, and how can I share that with everyone? I would say that that's how I would measure success.
Is there a balance when it comes to your work life and your personal life, or is it more 60-40 or 80-20? Being that you are a business owner, sometimes there's a lot more responsibilities, but on the other hand, you also have control of saying, you know what, if I want to go in at 10 o'clock in the morning, I can.
Yeah, there's definitely the flexibility in the days that I need it. For example, I'll be quite honest. I mean, today I had to go and pick up a loaner vehicle from the dealership because my car's being worked on. So I got there at 8 in the morning, and I didn't get back to the office until 11. And, you know, I even had my team with me. We went and we all ate breakfast together at like 9:30 in the morning, 9:30, 10 a.m. So there's with the flexibility comes a lot of responsibility, though, right? And I feel like it boils down to being completely disciplined with your time and knowing, okay, if I'm going to make this decision right now to go and eat, then I know that I need to catch up on the back end, right? The back end of the day, and really drive my productivity at the end of the day. I wouldn't say it's like 80-20. I think it's really hard to measure that. You know, I think it boils down to how you're feeling that day. And a part of being a business owner is being self-driven and not having to, you know, count on anyone for my success. I wake up in the morning and I write down the things that I need to do, and I go and I execute. I would even say sometimes, some days it's 100%. There's literally no personal life. It's 100% work from the moment that I get up to the moment that I go to sleep. Some days I don't work out. Some days I have to go right into doing some contracts that I didn't do the night before. And then I make calls all day. And then I'm working on my business and talking to my employees from the Philippines at night, you know, or I'm working on a website. It's very difficult to just say something like 50-50 or 80-20. At the end of the day, you need to get the job done and not go to sleep until the job gets done. Because at the end of the day, no one is going to put food on your table unless you do, unless you go out and make it happen. The government doesn't care. You know, your parents are going to be gone whenever you get older. You're here by yourself, and you need to make sure you take care of business right now before it's too late. And I think people need to wake up and set themselves up for success before it's too late. So I would say some days I work really hard, but then others I go on vacation, I don't do any work. So it boils down to where you're at in life and what your assets allow you to do. You know, if you have a net worth of, 10 million, you're going to have a lot of passive income coming in, and you're not going to have to work. And if you want to, you can go take a retreat. You go take a month off or a year off, but then after that, you'll start to realize that it gets pretty boring. If you don't have anything to do, it gets pretty boring. So I love work. I love it. And I love working. I love working hard. I love doing business. And I don't think I'll ever stop doing this.
What would you recommend students in high school or college to do in order to prepare for a career like yours?
Read books, period. I mean, I heard it a lot when I was growing up, and I wish I would have paid attention. And I wish people would have told me the exact books that I need to read, because they will change your life, and they'll change your perspective if you allow it to. If you really sit down and you really pay attention to the words. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich, The Richest Man of Babylon, all these books that I told you about real estate earlier, Brandon Turner. Also like Brendan Burchard. For negotiations, I would say Chris Voss. He was an FBI negotiator that would negotiate with terrorists to not kill hostages. So from a book, I was able to learn the tactics that this man used to save people's lives. And I'm using those same skills to buy people's houses. Where else can you buy the information for $12, read all that information, and then go out and apply it in real world? People are just too lazy to read, but reading will change your life. And I'm not talking about those big textbooks that they give you in school. A lot of that knowledge will be outdated. And that's just a fact. But this knowledge, the knowledge that you can apply in the real world, will never be outdated. It can be revised, but some of it, Think and Grow Rich was I think written like in 1930, and it still applies very much today. I would say that that's the number one thing I would
recommend.
I wouldn't even say recommend. Like, you have to do this if you want your life.
You're like, no, you have to do it. It's not.
Yeah. Here's the thing.
I completely agree with you. I've read some books, and it's like, wow, like it opens your mind, and you can transfer those skills not only to your personal life, but also to your business life. Yeah,
I agree. Now, the reason why I say that is like, you have to do this. But at the end of the day, just don't lie to yourself. If you don't read these books, it's going to set you back. And then now that you have that knowledge, just understand that any position that we find ourselves in, we put ourselves there through our decisions and through the actions that we take. So if you decide to read the books, you're going to have a great life. If you don't decide to read the books, you may have a great life, you may not. But this is something that's very actionable that will change your life. And I can guarantee you that for sure.
What other factors may impact somebody's ability to work in your field besides education and training or experience?
The only thing I can think about is being lazy.
Okay.
That's it. Being lazy, you'll get nowhere, but you really don't need anything in this business, if you, even intelligence, I feel like it's not something that's needed. I don't consider myself the smartest guy in the room. I've just read a lot of freaking books. That's it. Like, I've read a lot. I've surrounded myself around a lot of smart people that are a lot smarter than I am. And I just intake all of the information that they know like a sponge. Really, what will keep you from success is being lazy. What will keep you in the situation that you're in is being lazy. So you have the decision to take control of your life by just working really hard and going after your dreams.
What is the best career decision that you've ever made?
The best career decision that I've ever made is getting fired from my engineer position. And I say that now with great pride because I put myself in a scenario where I was inevitably fired. And it was I still remember the day that I got fired from. I mean, I was making $95,000 a year working as an engineer and working in oil and gas. And the day that they brought me in, the HR lady says, "Hey, come on in, blah, blah, blah." I knew what was coming. So we sat down. She takes out this folder and she says, "Well, because of this, and this reason, Mr. Llanes, we're going to have to fire you." And I smiled at her. And I almost saw like a look in her face, like, what the heck? What's going on? Like, why are you smiling? Well, I'm sure most people are devastated by being fired. I smiled at her. I smiled at my manager. He was there too. And I just said, "Thank you. I appreciate it." And I said that with a very honest mind, because that's what allowed me to get out of the engineering world and full time into the real estate world. Looking back at it, I would maybe not have done the same. I would have stayed at that job and focused on real estate and buying real estate with the income from my engineering job. And that might have gotten me a little bit further ahead than where I'm at right now. But nevertheless, everything happens for a reason. But I would say that that's single-handedly what got me to where I'm at right now.
Thinking back to your very first job, do you believe or do you think that it played a role in the way that you are now when it comes to being a business owner?
No, not at all. I mean, I worked at Home Depot pushing carts and, just putting them in. It was no customer service, no talking to anyone. I used to work even at the flea market when I was 14 years old, selling lollipops. And I would say that didn't even put a role. I'm going to go back to books, and then just knowing that reading the books taught me so much knowledge that I'm able to apply in business right now. So yeah, I don't think any job that I've had has prepared me for where I'm at right now. I think books has been the only thing that's prepared me for where I'm at right now. Books and paying consultants. That's paid way more dividends than anything else in my life.
If you had one piece of advice for someone that's starting off and building a business, what would it be?
If I had one piece of advice for anyone that's wanting to start a business, what would it be? I would say take action today. A lot of people think a lot. A lot of people say things like, "I want to start a business. I want to do this. I want to be a real estate agent. I want to be this when I grow up," or I want this, I want that. Stop thinking, start doing. And it doesn't have to be a big action. I'll give you a quick example. Someone reached out to me and they said they want to be a real estate agent. And I said, "Well, what's stopping you?" And they gave me a list of reasons. And I said, "You're focusing more on your problems than you are on your solutions. What you should do is start focusing and asking yourself, what do I have to do to be a real estate agent?" Right? In their case, it was something as simple as buying a laptop so that they can go do the course online. And I said, "Well, what's stopping you from buying the laptop?" "Well, I don't have the money." "Well, borrow the money. Go do whatever you need to do to get it done." Because taking that first step will be almost like a tumbling effect, a snowball effect that keeps on growing and manifesting on itself. It keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then you start taking bigger actions. At the very first time that I made a phone call, it was one phone call. Then it was 10 phone calls. Then it was 50, 100. Then it's okay. I finally got my first deal. Okay, now it's 5 deals. Now I have 10 deals on the board. My next goal is 100 deals. And it's a never ending revolving door of, wanting more. But I think the beauty is in the process, not in the destination. A lot of people think, oh, when I have $1 million, I'm going to be happy. Or when I have, 10 houses, I'm going to be happy. You have to be happy right now. You have to be happy now and enjoy the process, because life is not a goal. It's not a destination. Life is all of these ups and downs that we have in life. And that's the beauty of it. And then just sitting back and enjoying where you're at right now is truly what will make you happy and what will drive you to do more business. So
that's a really good piece of advice, because a lot of people do wait. They're like, when this happens, and they shouldn't. They're scared.
yeah, it's there's always going to be new levels. Let's say I buy a house for 100,000. Wow, that's really scary, right? Oh wow, it's 100,000. Well, what's the next step from that? I'm probably going to want to buy a 10-unit apartment complex or a 20-unit apartment complex for $1 million, right? That's even scarier. I'm gonna put, I'm gonna have $1 million worth of debt on one single property. That's scary. Now, what's the next step from there? Once you do it, again, it's gonna be the same thing. You run through it, you run through the wall, you're gonna look back, oh, $1 million, oh, that wasn't too bad. I was talking to my friend and his net worth is like 14, 15 million. And he was telling me, I was like asking him, like, what's the best way to make, I think like X amount. And he said, well, dude, it's really not that hard to make $1 million. He told me that. He told me that with a very straight face. And he's told me that being 100% honest with me. And I believe him, because he's at the next level than where I'm at, and there's always going to be that next level. Then I'll have a conversation with someone else who is on their way to being worth 100 million. And one of my mentors, he's making $200,000 a month passively, meaning that if he doesn't lift a finger, he makes $200,000. That's on top of the active income from his business. So he may be bringing in, 5 million a year, something like that. So for him, he'll look at me and say, dude, it's really not that hard to make 5 million a year. And so there's all these different levels of people. I think that we just need to realize that there will always be the next level, and focus on where you're at, admire those people, and then work really hard to get to where they're at. And that's life.
Mr. Llanos, thank you very much for taking the time to complete this interview. The information that you shared is extremely valuable, and it's going to impact a lot of students. Guys, if you're interested in learning more about this career or any other career, we encourage you to explore Texas Reality Check, Texas Career Check, Own It, and Career Coach to dig deeper into your career search, right? And all these things can be found under our website, wfsolutions.org. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
We do have Mr. Llanos available for live questions and answers. Mr. Llanos, would you like to say hi to our students that are attending the conference today?
Yeah, hey guys, how's everyone doing?
So we have a few comments. I know a lot of people were requesting a list of your books, so we were able to place them on the chat. I know we got a lot of those books by Chris Voss. Never Split the Difference, Negotiating as If Your Life Depended on It. We also have the Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. I believe I'm pronouncing that correct. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Richest Man of Babylon by George S. Clason. So those are some of the books that you did mention on the interview. How were you able to get a hold or get information of gathering these books for yourself? Like, were you able to gather them from other individuals that you know, or the recommendations?
I think it all starts with desire and desire for knowledge. And I apologize. I had to run up to Dallas to do some business up here, but I'm on the road right now, so I apologize if you guys hear any background noise. But as far as how I got into it, one guy, told me, hey, you should read this book. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And after reading that book, it just opened up my mind. And after that, it was just a deep desire to have more knowledge as far as what, you know, rich people know versus what we don't know, at the time. And so it was just an unquenchable thirst that I had. And I just started going online, you know, what books to read for personal development. And I just kept on reading more and more and just finding all of these books that I mentioned in the interview. So I highly recommend everyone to start reading immediately, you know, don't delay, and just start taking action towards your dreams and your goals.
Thank you for that, Mr. Yanez. So do you partake in the interview process for your employees? And if you do, what do you look for in a new employee?
The most important thing that I look for is hunger, you know, and just a lot of excitement. I feel like anyone can be right. The most important things, the qualities that you need is just confidence in yourself, but that's gonna come through on your excitement also, right? If you're very excited, if you're very motivated to get started and you're coachable, everything else can just be taught, and it just takes time to train you to get to the point where you can start doing what I'm doing or doing certain things or certain aspects in my business that can help us grow and help us scale.
Thank you. You mentioned during your interview that you have employees in Colombia and the Philippines. So is there a language barrier, or are you familiar with those languages?
No, well, they're required to speak English if they're going to work with me. So yeah, there's no language barrier at all. As a matter of fact, the people in Colombia, they speak perfect English. I have one girl that's actually now I'm training her to close deals from Colombia over here in the US. So what that means is that she's going to be negotiating, she's going to be making offers, she's going to be doing anything that someone here in the United States would do. Obviously, you know, if there's ever a need for an in-person meeting, then I would be there for that, or someone on my team here locally can be here for that. So at the end of the day, it's just hiring the people that you need in certain seats in your organization, and just filling those positions. For example, the person in the Philippines does a lot of administrative work. She doesn't have a lot of really good communication skills, but she's very good at working with spreadsheets and uploading information to the internet. So it just depends on what you need in your organization at the time.
Do we have any other questions, Jasmine, on the chat?
No, we only have a comment from Ms. Shelly Sanchez.
Yes, we do have a comment from Ms. Shelly Sanchez. She mentions your presentation was very inspiring. Thank you for sharing your journey.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. If anyone wants to reach out to me via any of my social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and you know, even just to ask for guidance, I'd be very happy to help anyone out. I feel like the most important thing in life is to just pass it on and pass on knowledge to other people, just so we could all elevate ourselves. The more people that are winning, the better off we all are as a collective.
We also have another comment from Mr. Peel. He is a business teacher from Hidalgo Early College High School, and he says, thank you so much for your time as well. So I guess we will close this off, and thank you so much for being here. Ms. Matilde says, awesome. But thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Yanez. Thank you for your time, and we appreciate everything that you do.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Likewise. Bye-bye. For everybody else that joined the conference, thank you so much. Tomorrow we will have the second day of our conference. So you're more than welcome to join us from starting at 8:30 to 11:30.